All right, welcome to All Politics Are Local, April 26th, 2024. This is we are back again this week. I know that and we'll be talking about this a lot this week and next week, but it's been a pretty sad week for myself and the entire All Politics Are Local family with the loss of our very good friend, Congressman Donald Payne. We're going to talk about that later in the broadcast, and we have an entire show dedicated to that next week. But first up, what we're going to have today, and welcome to All Politics Are Local. We have, because it's the fourth Friday, we have the disciples that are up, and they're going to be coming up right away. It's a wonderful conversation of religion and politics, and that we welcome every single week. We have. At 7 o'clock. We're going to have our first brief discussion, our All Politics of Local family. Just a brief shout out to our friend. And at 7:15, we're going to have the candidate for Orange Mayor on, April Gaunt-Butler. We'll be having hopefully all the candidates who are running for Mayor of Orange on in the next 2 weeks. At 7:30, we have Barbara Horne on. Barbara Horne, who just came back from the United Nations third session uh, on the permanent forum on the people of African descent and that international conversation surrounding reparations. A lot of us think that reparations for people of African descent, for Black people, is only a local conversation. It is actually an international conversation. And we look forward to our conversation with Barbara Horne. Later, at 8 o'clock, we are going to have we're going to have A.T. Mitchell and he's going to be talking about the New York City's experience with an Office of Violence Prevention and the things that they do with violence prevention. And then, of course, at 8:30, we're going to have DJ Rhino and the State of Hip Hop. So, without wasting more time, just jumping into it, the disciples, welcome. Glad to have you back. And welcome, Lady Melina Ali.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Brother Jonathan. That definitely was not a waste of time. We really appreciate you and what you do and what you have done, not just here, but also at Science and what you do with the debate team. So we really appreciate you, dear brother. I see Brother Zaid,
Good evening,
our
Brother
friend,
Zaid.
man, our friend, our brother, our
Comrade.
historian, our revolutionary, so many titles and hats that he wears, but the greatest title that he wears is the title of brother. So we really appreciate
Big
him.
head. You got this big head.
Every head that bears the crown.
And thank you.
Greetings to you all once again. My name is Brother Abdul Haq Muhammad. I'm the student minister of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan for the Muhammad Mosque of Islam number 25, which is located here in the city of Newark, New Jersey. Once again, I'm deeply grateful and highly honored for the privilege and the pleasure to be with you all this evening for another show of the disciples. You all know here we have had some life-altering events and circumstances happen to us. Our brother just spoke about the loss of our
Another loss.
friend, Brother Payne. And for those who follow the show, you know that we have recently lost our brother, our friend. He was a father, a mentor to many of us, affectionately known as Pastor in the Hood, Pastor Ali.
Yeah.
Just a great friend and a great brother, a great mentor. He was a father to many of the fatherless, a redemptive spirit and soul, love of God and Jesus and the gospel. So we thank God much for his life. But I have with me again two excellent people. Two excellent people. They really need no introduction, but we'll introduce them to some and represent them to others. And matter of fact, I'll let them present themselves to you all in the listener audience.
Well, good evening, good evening, good evening to all of you that are out there listening, looking, watching, prayerfully sharing, tagging, and telling that the disciples have arrived for their fourth Friday program, scheduled programming. It is such an honor once again to be with my beloved brother, Minister Abdul Haq Muhammad, brother, son, friend, and all that pertains to a young man who we are proud of for the work that he's doing. So honored to be here with him again tonight. Was honored when he invited Reverend Louise Scott Roundtree, who I do not believe, I know in certain terms, was a councilwoman or had planned to be. But I'm also a council member at large here in the great city of Newark, New Jersey. I'm also associate at the Good Neighbor Baptist Church. And there's a whole lot of titles that might go along with me, but I go along with being a good and faithful servant to the people of the city of Newark. Welcome once again to All Politics and Local, the number one hip hop radio station on Facebook Live. Thank you so much, Minister Abdul Haq Muhammad. And that's our segue to, and you didn't say anything, but Minister Abdul Haq, I was leaving that for you as to how.
Let me chime back in.
You got to come back in because I was getting ready to go all the way in on this first lady of this generation. Bam.
And you are the one to do it, to go all the way back in.
Yeah.
We talked about at the beginning of our show briefly our brother. Pastor Ali, pastor of the hood, in the hood, around the hood.
Over the hood.
Yes, our brother. But they say that some people say behind every good man is a good woman. I'm taught beside every good man is a good woman.
That's right.
And sometimes in front of every good man.
This was full coverage. You got liability.
That's right.
You got liability for your car, but it's really not. And then you have this was full coverage.
Right.
Pastor in the hood. Full coverage.
Right, full coverage. So the brother that many of us loved and were able to handle and be with and share. We thank this sister for her love. Not just for him, but for the people that he loved.
That's right.
Because there was many nights and days, I'm sure she wanted him to be home with her. But in typical black woman fashion, she was very unselfish. I mean, the black woman probably is the most unselfish creature on this planet Earth. I mean, so she was very unselfish, and she knew that he had a mission and a job to do, and she allowed him to do that. Our sister definitely looked better than what she'd been through. And we thought it not robbery. We thought it apropos. We thought it befitting with the passing of our brother to have her come in and sit where he sat. Not that she is going to be him because she's her own person.
That's right.
We could not think of a better individual, a better human being to sit in the stead of our brother Ali. We couldn't think of a better person, a more qualified person, a more loving person, a person who embodied and captures his spirit other than our sister. We're going to let her present herself to us and those who follow our show and those who are constantly with us every fourth Friday. We'll let our sister do the presentation of herself, though she's not a stranger to us here.
Our biggest supporter, our biggest fan. If nobody else commented, Lady Belina Lavette Ali was definitely on the line, giving her comments and encouraging us when nobody else would say a word. As you can hear crickets, she was on there saying, "Say that." That's right, Minister. That's right.
Or typing it. If she wasn't verbally saying it, she was typing it in, whether it was from the comfort of her home, from the hospital bed.
That's right.
Our sister was with us. So, dear sister.
Hi, everybody. How y'all doing? Well, for starters, I forgot that the disciples came on the fourth Friday, and tonight is my Enough is Enough meeting that we have at the church, because I just believe that the devil is messing with our young women. And our young women are being beat on by men that we don't know about. And our young women are getting in trouble, and our young women need to come together. So My husband had me start a group, and it's called Enough is Enough, because no abuse is okay with me.
That's
No
right.
abuse is okay with this church.
That's
And
right.
it's not just for this church. It's for anybody that want to come to this church. So yes, my name is Lady Belina Ali. Some people call me First Lady. I'm just a servant. I'm just humble. Y'all know February 20th, I lost my husband. And like I told everybody, I was taught by the best. So my spirit is willing, but my flesh is weak. I stayed 60 days at my daughter's house, slept at my daughter's house for 60 days because I was not safe or felt safe at my own house because my husband was not there. But I am back home now with a brand new security system, and I've been in my house for a whole week. I don't profess to be strong. I don't profess to be anybody but Belina. That's the only person I know how to be. I love the disciples. I love all of you. I know you. Like y'all said, every fourth Friday I was on watching you all. So I do know about the disciples. I thank y'all for allowing me to come on. I thank y'all for allowing me to have my input. I am a behind the scenes person, but my husband's death and invasive ductal carcinoma brought me to the forefront. So now I have to learn more on how to encourage people. Even when I don't feel like getting out my bed, I still know how to encourage people. So I know that God has a job for me. God has a job for me. So my new journey has begun with this journey called life.
Minister
so
Hart.
Yes, ma'am.
Lady Belina has an extensive background in many areas, and I believe that the decision to have her as the co-host and knowing that Pastor Ali was very aware of all of which she was about, but he himself encouraged and pushed her to whatever you want to do, and she allowed the light to shine on him to hit her. If you can get what I'm saying, she didn't jump out. She was always behind the scene, watching him, covering him. Each moment, each event, she was walking with her camera like she worked for the Starlight. You know, making you heard what I said, right?
Yes,
She was
ma'am.
walking like she worked for one of those, but she was capturing the truth of those moments of him standing with the bullhorn on the corner, blocking traffic, shutting down different officials that they wanted to just take a vacation or take a leave permanently. And that's the nicest way I can put it. She is an administrative coordinator for Mental Health Association, which means there are different topics we're going to be able to touch with Lady Belina and bring on guests as we go forward to touch on these topics. We were talking about bringing her on as a cancer survivor for months to deal with this rare form
That's right.
of cancer that she had. And we never, listen, God is the best of planners. How you say it? So Allah knew best to make sure that when the decision was made, that this sister, this wonderful sister who was married to our great, I don't like to say late, one who was transitioned, the founder, overseer, Dr. Brian R. Ali, has now, she has found, how they say, found a purpose through her pain. And she's pushing her way to her purpose. And I'm just honored, and I know you are too, Minister Hawk. I know you are too, Brother Ed. I know you are too, Brother Zaid, that we are a part of her journey. We're all excited about being a part of Pastor Ali, but now we'll be a part of her journey as she goes forward to reach the masses that tune in or tune in later to our Facebook Live on All Politics and Locals. Disciples go out and teach nations. Well, baby, you can't have better teachers than Minister Abdul Haq Muhammad, Lady Belina Ali, and Baba Zaid. What a group right there. It's back in your hands.
Well, let me just say this. Let me add to that, to this hot sauce you're making. This hot sauce of love you spreading all over the chicken, right? There's a whole one of the untold stories of the great peacemaking work that is happening in this town and other towns that dare to make this happen. In a little while, I'm going to have my little brother A.T. Mitchell, who set off peace work in New York City, even before we got busy with the Newark Anti-Violence Coalition some years ago, right? There is a whole plethora of this work that it not only involves our sisters, but it's led by our sisters. See, I want y'all to appreciate something. I'm putting this in the African spiritual plane now. The work that we are doing is guided by what we call the divine feminine, right? That energy that emits from the creative space that not only gives us woman and gives us mother, but gives us the capacity to love, work, and fight sometimes if necessary in order to heal that and who needs healing. And in our doing that, we also don't get it twisted to all the brothers who think that I'm talking some girly stuff. Don't get it twisted. The divine feminine is strong. The divine feminine will also hold you behind accountable.
That's right.
Right?
That's
Just
right.
remember that in the African scene, many, many moons ago, Africa, who gave the queen to the world, with the queen as an institution called the regency, were the ones who approved and trained and certified anybody that would be king or queen. Now you had to go through something to get them titles once upon a time, right? So this is the space. This is an energy. You know, those of us who do this, and I'm saying as one of the hard-headedest black men out here doing it. We can't do this by ourselves, brothers.
Come on.
Can't. We all have roles. We all have lanes, but there's nothing more majestic, nothing more compelling, nothing more endearing, and nothing more beautiful than the black woman out front taking charge of her folks, trying to save her world. And in the accountability dimensions is where we also see something. I want y'all, brothers, I want y'all to hear me. There's this thing in our historical legacy too called the warrior queen. You see, sometimes brothers get a little weak in the knees to get a little punky. Abdul Haq, you hear what I'm saying, son?
Sure. Yes,
Right,
sir.
get a little punky. And it's out of that win that you got that emerged a Hatshepsut, who had to save classical black civilization in ancient Kemet, who was the first queen who had to become king to save her daddy's territory. Y'all hear what I'm trying to say? The Asantewas, the Nahandas, right? The Nzingas. When the brothers lose their legs and their spines or their African minds, emerges out of
Come on and spit them rhymes.
out of that absence.
Yes.
Comes the divine feminine embracing where necessary the warrior queen. And let us remember just 2-3 summers ago, the so-called George Floyd summer, right? Protests all up and down, not just this country, but from Boston to Buenos Aires.
Yes.
Black folks with a whole lot of company with them over the senseless scourge of police terror and police violence, overwhelmingly led by black young women.
Yes.
And don't mind me, I'm gonna give a shameless plug to my child who's now the deputy mayor of this town.
Yes. Yes.
She ain't come out the sky.
That's right.
She got family inside, right? Got family outside. Been
Yep.
through all of our changes in the street, but every space she has touched from the time she was a young woman in her college days, she has come in as a transformer. All in that tradition. So when we embrace my little sister, Lady Belina, we know who we got.
That's right.
Just like our brother knew who he had when he got
When
her.
he married her, that's right.
That's right. So, you know,
Tall, light skin, and I ain't gonna say what the preacher said. I am not gonna say what this pastor said, but you was there, Mama.
when the queen, whenever you want to rock, you know, this is the place where you can rock and roll, right? Let me get out the way. Go ahead and
Thank you, Brother Zaid, for that. historical account, brother. We really appreciate that, and that's why we love you.
But let me tell you, let me jump in 1 second. I want you to appreciate this too, right? Now, you were blessed to be under the great minister Louis Farrakhan, but people do not know the story. Very few people from my age and down really know the story of a great black woman, no bigger than about Keisha's size, named Sister Clara Muhammad.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Sister Clara Muhammad, the mother of the Nation of Islam.
That's
right? Who found her husband on the streets of Detroit and made him clean up. Y'all hear what I'm trying to say? And when he was given the mission to take the reins of what became the mighty Nation of Islam, what about our babies, bruh? How are we gonna get you? Dana, I'm not sending after you gonna talk all this black God stuff, and then we gotta send our babies to the devil's school. No, hell no. We gonna build some schools, right?
That's right.
That black woman set it off. That's our tradition.
That's right.
That's our tradition.
That's
so Lady
right.
Belina, just those are the shoulders you stand on, and we embrace you with that kind of love and depth of respect. All right, black woman. Good to see you.
I hear. Thank you. Thank you.
And we really appreciate her and Reverend Roundtree and all of the strong, black, positive women that we know and that, we care for and that we love. And who, as you said, Brother Zaid, when we get a little weak, which it seems like we do a lot, meaning us as men, not that we were created or made weak.
Tell it, son.
Not that we are made or created weak, but a system that has crippled us and paralyzed us.
Yes.
But as the scripture says, from the biblical perspective, in Genesis 2:18, God said it is not good that man should be alone, that I would make a helpmeet for him. And it has always been the black woman that has helped us as best she could to try to meet the duty that God put on us, but we don't always take her help, nor do we always receive her help. So sometimes she has to take the reins and lead the charge, as she has been doing for the last 400 some odd years. And I think that is a great segue for us to talk about a modern day Hatshepsut, Queen T, and so many others that we can call the role that has had to pick up the sword when we, as you said again, were a little weak and spineless. So we have a sister with us who is doing revolutionary work. Anytime you are doing anything to try to inspire and encourage and educate our children, that's an act of revolution. So we have a great, excellent sister with us. But before we bring her on, because this
Can I say something, Minister?
Go ahead.
You know
Yes,
what you just let me believe? When you said that, and listening to Baba, and knowing that our dear brother was called from labor to reward, I was thinking of Sister Betty Shabazz, Sister Merle Evers, Coretta Scott King. These women who had to go on after the transitioning of their loved ones, but maintained whatever their assignment. Baba, you hear what I'm saying? Like,
maintain their faith and their
they
grace.
maintained their faith and stood up in the face of adversity, when Malcolm, and it was all unexpected. Like she didn't expect, even though we knew the lives they lived, whether it was through sickness and health. Sister Belina, like you didn't expect that Sunday night we was at the hospital that the next day the story would be different. Sister Coretta didn't expect to go home, and then be waiting and get the call of what happened into the Rain Hotel. Betty Shabazz was at the Audubon with her children when it happened. And these women were still called upon to have to face the community, the public, raising, some of them are little ones, the point is, they were women of awesome, phenomenal men that put their lives. And I had to say that because as I look at Lady Belina Ali, it was not expected for Brother Ali not to be on this show last month on the fourth Friday. And now we have her, the leading lady, the queen of his life, here to help and trying to hold it together, to help educate with the things and the topics and the.
Y'all call me Howard.
She lived with him all these years. So not only does she have his spirit and what he stood for, but what would have helped her to be able to be the woman she had to be for him, while at the same time having agendas within her life that she had to face, deal with mental health people where she works. She works in a mental health facility, So she's dealing with people's minds. And she got to come out here with her husband and deal with the people he deal with their minds that are not inside the place, along with his sickness, her sickness. So I just got you laughing, but it's the truth. And I want to see you smile. Because we commend you, sister. Nobody going to go on RLS. Nobody going to go on Channel 12 and say who going to take Pastor Ali's place like they're doing with Congressman Payne. Why? Because people are not willing to do that kind of work. Now, we got a couple of calls about the co-host. There wasn't nobody saying, and that was when he was breathing, who going to do the work Ali out there doing? Who going to go with Baba Zaid and stand on the corner and speak truth to power? Who going to do it? So you don't see people running to what you and your husband did, or going to do. So yeah, we commend you for being brave enough to having the courage and to standing on that 2 Timothy scripture of God did not give us spirit of fear. Anyway, let me stop there.
Thank you so much, Reverend Roundtree. I mean, again, being a follower of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, I'm constantly reminded of the strength and the uncompromising spirit of strong women. His wife, as we call her mother, Khadija Farrakhan, very strong woman who, was there with him from the beginning, who stood up first when she heard the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And it was his uncle who encouraged her after seeing his wife say, you stand up. So definitely, Sister Ali, we really appreciate you and we love you. And to our sister, Miss Marlene, we really thank you for your patience here, sister. As we strive to be obedient to time. So we really thank you for your patience and being with us. But I wanted to say this as we bring our sister on. I think this is a good segue to bring her on, given the work, his revolutionary type work that she does with our children. I don't know if you all have seen the report. I think our sister right there.
There she is.
Miss
Marlene,
Sister Marlene, thank you so much for being with us and thank you for your patience. We know that you are a very busy woman, but I just want to read this. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I think it's a great segue to, introduce you to some and represent you to others. Okay, so I don't know if we all seen this report, Reverend Roundtree, Sister Ali, Brother Zaid, that came out. Tap in Newark. Report says Newark youth disconnection persists, varies by ward. And it's talking about, it's a whole report. I think it's a 106-page report that came out where it's talking about, again, the disconnection of Black youth, particularly here in Newark and all over the country from ages 16 to 24, talking about how a lot of our youth are disconnected, they're disengaged, they're unemployed, talking about how our youth have become even more disconnected since COVID. So an excellent report. It was issued today, tap in Newark, tap in Newark.net. So if you have not read this report, please pull it up. An excellent report. Again, study offer solutions in education and childcare health. So I thought that was a very interesting report that if you have not read, please read it. It's done by Newark Youth Opportunity Network. Newark Youth Opportunity Network. So if you have not read that report, please pull it up and read it. But again, we have our sister here with us.
Yes.
I read her bio. man, very extensive.
That'll take up another 20 minutes.
Another 20 minutes.
That's because she got so much going on. And then by the time
Lord.
listen, both of these sisters, Belina and Liam, look, I got their histories right here. So that's 30 minutes of the show right there, because they're both amazing.
Our sister is very accomplished, and I did not know that the mannequin challenge. I did not know our sister is the creator and maker of that.
Wow.
How excellent. And I was one of those who was I'm not gonna lie, sister Marlene. I was one of those who used that as a talking point. The mannequin challenge, we sitting there stiff, we need to be moving. So forgive me, sister, but again, our sister bio is very extensive. But for the sake of time, dear sister, if you could just introduce yourself to our audience and give us just a brief synopsis of who you are and what it is that you do.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Once again, thank you for the invite. It is amazing to be here. I am Miss Marlene Mack. I am a native of Newark. I went to Malcolm X Shabazz High School. I left there and I went on to South Carolina State University in Orangeburg, South Carolina. I came back, got married, had some kids, and I started an in-home child care center. I've been doing child care for the last 27 years. This coming Thanksgiving will be 28. I currently have 3 centers, 2 in East Orange and 1 now in Newark. And I advocate for children. This is what I do. I call myself an early childhood education expert. Some people don't take education, the foundation early enough, the ages 1 through 5. But it's important that we give them the foundation. So that is what I do. Before your babies enter the 1st grade, they come to me. And I specialize in making sure that my parents are able to go to work and have a peace of mind while the children that are in my care are in the best care.
Thank you so much, dear sister. Excellent. Again, as I read your bio, I was just very impressed with all that you have done and all that by God's grace you will continue to do. And I saw something very interesting in it. It talked about how you incorporate performing arts into the curriculum of your children. What inspired you to do that?
So, that's really funny. I don't know if you guys remember back in the day, we used to go to the corners and buy the CDs.
Yes, ma'am.
We used to buy the CDs, and I had a few CDs one weekend, and my staff and I decided that we were going to paint the school. So we brought the CDs in from that Thursday to that Sunday, and the CDs was left by mistake. And one of the teachers started playing the CDs from Motown. And when the children went down for a nap, they started learning the Temptations, Cross. They started singing these songs, and we were already known for our fashion shows. So we got busy with the fashion shows, and we decided to incorporate the children that already learned how to do the Temptation steps and the songs, and we put that into our fashion show. That's the start of the early performing arts. We started doing that back in the 2005, 2006, 2007. And each year it got better and better and better. But I feel like, you got Alvin Haley, you got Sissy Tyson, you got Whitney Houston, and now you got one step ahead. But we are early childhood with the performing arts. And we do our daily activities, but we put our emphasis on the performing arts with the young. We teach them to sing, to dance. We have vocal coaches. We have stylists. We have people that do their hair. We have haircuts. We have designers. It's just shrunk to meet the little ones' needs.
Little ones, start them out early. And that is so amazing.
And they have several viral videos. They have been invited to perform all over Essex County, Union County. And we take it very, very serious. When you see us pack up, it's like we're going on tour. They arrive at their destinations in limousines. They have their stylists there. They have the camera.
That's awesome.
You hit the mute button. She's talking.
Yes, sister, you have to unmute yourself.
Unmute.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go. Sister?
They realize that their children are talented at that age.
Right, and the earlier you start them, if I may, the easier it is for them to catch on, absorb, because their memory, at that age, you could teach a song Like my mother taught me the Lord's Prayer when I was like 3 or 4 years old. So by 4 and 5, I was singing it, because I didn't realize, then by the time I got 8, I didn't want to do nothing, but because I was made to do it. But at an early age, these babies, they can absorb it easier because there's not a whole bunch of other stuff to interfere. But once they get to the 10 peers, people looking at you, you're starting to come into your own. But this is amazing because she's got these little babies. When I went to the school, they little babies, like 5, right? 4, So they're little and they're learning. When I say well behaved, there were 2 at the press conference. And they were standing there like better than the grown people. Like the grown people was all over the place and talking. They were just standing there, just as poised and disciplined, realizing where they were. So just in that little bit of time, you were able to train them. This is what you do. This is where we are, and this is your environment. And I believe, Minister Abdul, that this one step ahead by having an educator, an entrepreneur, artist, and an early childhood champion. That's just some of it, but you're also a mother.
Yes, right.
That raised children. And a lot of mothers want certain things for their children, but can't put it on paper because we don't get a book with motherhood. It's like on-the-job training, you know what I'm saying? But you knew what you wanted to do and how you wanted to do it. So I commend you and I thank God and I wish the best. You have more than one location, don't you?
Yes, I have 2 in East Orange and 1, the brand new one, which is at Gateway. Gateway 1 downtown, right directly across the street from Penn Station on Raymond Boulevard. There are 4 classrooms. The last classroom is called the Tony. Each classroom is named after the Emmy, the Grammy, the Golden Globe, the BET room. So those are the names of the classrooms. And as the kids walk to the classroom, they're walking on stars, which are the Hollywood Walk of Fame, but we call it the OSA stars. And when you make it to the Tony room, which is Broadway, that's where the musical starts. But not only do we do music, we do karate, we do dance, we do hip hop, we do sign language, we do the science club, we do the art club. So when school is out, the kids have a different area to go to participate. We actually do cooking classes. So it's not just music. But one thing you guys do not know, that every morning at 9 o'clock we have devotion. We pray. My kids know the books of the Bible from Genesis to Revelations. They must learn Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthened me. I all teach my kids, let's pray. I'm not teaching religion. I'm not throwing it down anybody's throat. But because of the things that are going on in the school these days, One Step Ahead Learning Center, we pray. We pray for the kids. We pray for the parents. We ask for favor, protection. And I've been doing that for 27 years every morning at 9 o'clock, nonstop, before we do anything else. I believe when the praises go up, the blessings come down. I believe Christ and education makes a great combination. And I believe that's why the favor of God is on my life, because what I installed in these children. It's no joke. It's no joke. We love to dance. We are performing arts. We are very different than most daycare centers. I'm very out of the box. You can say a lot about Miss Marlene, but they will say, she's going to take care of your children. She's going to take care of your child. But we love what we do there, and they're in a clean atmosphere. There's cameras everywhere. The meals are included. We have great hours. We have flexible hours. And let me tell you something else. Every third Saturday from 9 to 2, I am open for free. My parents can drop their kids off for 5 years. If you want to go get a haircut, you want to go to ShopRite, you want to just go back home and lay down, you can bring your child to me on Saturday. It's for free. That's my way of giving back to my parents, because they have given me so much. One thing I do with my staff, I tell them, as long as you take care of God's children, you'll never be hungry. You will never be without, because God will provide you for taking care of those children.
Wow, sister, that's so inspiring. Oh my Lord, that's very inspirational. As you said, sounds very unorthodox in terms of what we are used to seeing. We know how people feel about their children. You know, how sensitive people are about their children, physically, mentally, emotionally. So to hear that you start every morning in prayer, very monumental, in an educational system that have took prayer out of the school. So to hear you start in prayer is awesome, my dear sister. I wanted to ask, if I could, if Sister Ali don't have a question, I'll run. What inspired you to get into early child care?
Well, my major was special education, but by the time I got out of college, I had changed it to early childhood education. And I started working for this school in Bloomfield. And there was a lot of things that I did not like. And I felt like me being who I am, I'm a born leader. I can do this. I wanted to start my own program. I wanted to implement my own Christian school. At that time, the school was called All God's Children Christian Academy. I later changed the name to One Step Ahead. But then I got married and I started having children and I stayed home. And I was one of those parents that I have in my school right now, very scared to put your kid out there in daycare centers. So I ran the in-home daycare center for 8 years in my basement. So during the grand opening, I was telling everybody I started in the basement, but now I'm here. I started in the basement, now I'm at Gateway. But that's what started me. I became a stay-home mom after I had 3 girls back to back. And then all of a sudden, I had all these kids. I got licensed. I have it in my house. But that outgrew. I kept getting kids and getting kids and kids. It was time to get out of the basement and expand. And as you see, this is 2024. I'm still expanding. I just opened up a beautiful, brand new, built from the ground up daycare center, learning center, performing arts center. We have a great summer program, 6:30 to 6:30. But during the summer, we also still teach. Why? Because kids forget a lot during the summer. We're going to have a great time, but we're still going to do a little couple hours a day enrichment, making sure that we are getting ready for September. But the main thing is Christ. My school believe in that. And those kids can tell you 13, 14, they can quote John 3:16. Matter of fact, they're taught to pray in the morning. They start up, they be like, hallelujah. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But it's important because, like I said, we need that. We need that. And the music and all of that is fantastic. I invite anyone. I have an open door policy. I have cameras everywhere. I'm open to my parents. I have a firm belief is do not lie to my parents. Let them know what's going on. Let them see what's going on. My school is clean. And you know what? It's hard. Childcare is not easy. You deal with the kids, you deal with the parents, you deal with the staff, you deal with multiple personalities every day. So guess what you got to do? You have to stay prayed up. You have to stay prayed up. You have to put that covering over you so that you can be able to deal with these kids because there's a lot going on. But I wish I could have all the kids in the world in my care, and then I know they are well taken care of. Wow. But I can only be responsible for the number that I have here. And I've been given favor. Because I'm telling you, Gateway is something to come see. It has the state of arts, everything, their own musical room, the piano, the keyboard, the little microphones. And these children are learning to have confidence in themselves, to stand up in front of a microphone and speak, to have the self-esteem and not be afraid to verbally express themselves. And I've had the busiest children. And guess what? When it comes to music, it calms them down. It turns them into geniuses. They start playing the piano, and it starts now. I believe our future is now. Yes, Black Lives Matter, but I'm an advocate for small children lives matter as well. Our children lives matter as well at any age, and I'm an advocate for them.
Let me ask you something if I could. So how many children do you now have in your care? If you know that number off top. I know you have 3 centers. How many children
open up? And let me tell you something. We had the grand open on Monday. Since Monday, have enrolled about 8 kids.
Okay.
The total down there is about 12 now. At my other 2 schools, it's a waiting list. You cannot get in. There's not one spot that I can crack and give it to anybody. It is full. We're pushing over almost 200 kids.
Wow.
You know what I like, Minister? What I like is that knowing the services that she offers and knowing the demand that's going to be on her, I see you growing beyond what Gateway, because what you offer, and you're not trying to just take everybody in and cram them in. You're going according to what you can accommodate. And a lot of places, people are so busy getting the money that the children's attention is not being attended to. So if you got 50, listen, it's going on in the public schools. There are schools where classrooms have so many. How can you do nothing but stand in front of the class, give them but give them even with teachers' aides. This is such a critical time.
Mm-hmm.
They learn how to pay attention. They learn how to focus. They learn you can give them the attention because you don't have a whole bunch of children in one. And then with all the things that you have to offer, the children at that age don't grow up saying, I want to be a drug dealer or I want to be. At that age, they want to be Wonder Woman, somebody, someone that they identify with that's strong and powerful or whatever, a firefighter. I see kids saying they want to be a firefighter. And then as they grow up and mature, but you're sowing into them now that they can be, and this is how you can do it. So if you want to go into the arts, you must have an education. If you want to be a basketball player, you still got to know how to count. If you want to be an artist, you still need to know how to handle business, because if you can't count, someone will come in and count for you and have you thinking one thing, and they'll be miscounting for you, and you won't have. So this is so that you're tying that education into it. So those who want to go into the performing arts at some point will have the ability to know, I got to get this education. Because if I don't get this education, they can tell me anything.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And we got a lot of stories. Come here, Gary Coleman, where people were handling these young people's kids' money, some being their own relatives.
Yeah.
And mismanaging their money. And then when they looked around and needed some, they didn't have any.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we see so many accounts of our children being inside daycares. I don't know if you all recall, maybe a few months ago in the Bronx, New York, about the child who was in the daycare and they had some type of fentanyl operation that was going on, and the child inhaled
he died.
The fentanyl and passed away. I just saw a story about a woman who was abusing a child on a school bus, but the cameras recorded her. So we know so many stories where our children are being taken advantage of and abused at daycare centers, on school buses. So to see a sister like you who has done your due diligence, who's a lover of Christ, a lover of God, and to see what you offer our children, and their parents, you said every third Thursday you have a free day. They could drop their children off for so many hours. That type of service is well needed in our community, a community that's oftentimes underserved. To hear what you offer, the class, the dignity, the decency, the cleanliness. It's really appreciated, dear sister. And we pray that God will continue to cover you and your staff and all of the children. And as Reverend Roundtree said, we believe that, man, you're going to outgrow that one Gateway Center soon, very fast. So it's 6:49. The hour's growing late. So, dear sister, if anyone wants to reach you or enroll their children, can you please give them the information where they can reach you at?
Yes, we are on 1/4 Avenue in the Bakery Village. On the second floor is Suite Second. That's the one in East Orange, One Step Ahead Learning Center. In the first floor, we have One Step Ahead Babies. That's 1/4 Avenue, East Orange, New Jersey. You can also contact me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We have all our accounts on social media. 1143 Raymond Boulevard is the Gateway location. We are on Concourse number 2, connected right across the street from Penn Station on the corner. Our hours are 6:30 to 6:30, Monday through Friday. All meals are included. The hours are flexible. You could do part-time, full-time. We have emergency drop-ins. We are there for your child 24/7. You can contact me at 973-592-9216 on our website at www.onestepaheadlearningcenter.com.
Oh, thank you so much, my dear sister. We really appreciate you. Thank you for being with us. God willing, maybe in a few months, we pray to have you back and give us an update in terms of how One Gateway is doing. Let us know when you are busting out the seams, because we know that God will bless you all as he has already done. So thank you, my dear sister. May God bless you and your family.
Thank you, guys. Thank you again for having me.
We love you, Miss Marlene Mack.
That's right, sister. Man.
One Step Ahead.
Thank you so much, sister.
Wait a minute. Oh, she leaves. Minister Abdul Haq always talking about us owning our own. owning our own hospital, owning
That's
our
right,
own
that's
this,
right.
owning that. Why we can't own our own school? My mother used to have a school too. It taught y'all to do hair. We used to have a black hospital right over here on West Kenny Street here in the city of Newark. You know, we've had our own. The problem is keeping our own, or when the person who had it running goes on and no one's left behind to carry on the legacy, like a Minister Abdul Haq Muhammad, to, you know, Clara Muhammad School. I mean, division in religion, division in all of these things cause things to fall. I keep telling folk, and one day we're going to get the message, Miss Matt, from One Step Ahead. We gonna get this message that even if it's Minister Abdul Haq that opens up the hospital, Donna, you can go and help and be there. And it doesn't mean it's your hospital, it's our hospital. He's just the one that started it and was the visionary. And he called Dr. Zaid Muhammad to come along and be the administrator, Ed Riley to handle the legal stuff, the legal to deal with the mental stuff, and all we need is the money in the building, like Miss Mack went on and got, so she can do all of what she's doing. So I know you commend her, and I know you're excited about her, because this is what you talk about all the time. We should have our own.
Listen, and Reverend Rapture, we know our sister definitely don't have any problem. This is her third center that she is opening.
Bam, from the basement.
This is the third
from the bottom up.
So our sister is definitely exemplifying and exuding Black excellence, right? We want to support her, and we do support her because she's our sister, but we're not just supporting her because she's our sister. She has a great quality service. See, a great quality service, and the work speaks for itself. You can't have 3 centers and be half doing it. No. So the people, the customers definitely like the service that she's offering. So she now has 3 centers. And
wait a minute, maybe I need to tell you, it just wasn't us that were students either, my brother. When we was at the press conference, there was a cute little clear person that was there. She was just as beautiful as she wanted to be, with her long, straight, chestnut brown hair down her back, just as gorgeous. And she needed a little sun on her, but I bet her brain was big. I bet the beautiful. She appeals to all nations.
That's
no matter who they are. She just happens to be. Amen. Thank you.
And I'm excited. I came on, but Sister Mac, I'm excited about the Gateway. I was a commuter for 10 years, and I know what it is to parents to be able to be catching a train and be able to have a place right there on their way to work. So that is a blessing. So you keep doing it and fulfilling your mission.
Listen, her daughter is on. Her daughter is on, and her daughter is saying, look, we got to look at the comments. Her daughter is saying, creating a great foundation. That's a child. That is her beautiful baby girl who is brilliant. And Brianna coming on, say, I believe that's your daughter, Brianna? Yeah. Well, if it is, you got a daughter named Brianna, and she probably would say the same thing, creating a great foundation, because you're setting a foundation in your daughters. She is so beautiful. I see and Brianna what we look for, Sybil, in so many things, and that is someone to carry on the great work that mother, father, sister, brother, cousin, uncle, friend has started, that's going to make a difference for generations to come. We still talk about the Prophet Muhammad. We still talk about Jesus. We still talk about Abraham. But 1,000 years from now, we pray that somebody going to be calling Miss Marlene Mack's name.
Yes. That's right. Yeah. So thank you so much, Sister Mac. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Your family here with us, and we are supporting you. May God continue to bless you and cover you. Thank you, and your staff and all the babies. Thank you so much, dear sister.
Thank you.
Thank you. So at 6:55, we got about 5 minutes. So real quick, if we can just hear from Sister Ali, if you could just give us some announcements. You just told us what you do every 4th Friday. Enough is enough. Oh, this is the first time I'm
going to actually, I'm actually change it to every 3rd Friday, because I have y'all on 4th Friday.
Okay.
They are getting a whole day for me. This is called Enough is Enough, because one of our young ladies in the church got in some trouble. She was in an abusive relationship for about 9 years, and nobody in the church knew about it.
Wow.
But when I got wind of it, I told my husband all I had was my mustard seed faith in my prayer this young lady was going to come out on top. And what the problem is not that she was the type of young lady, she didn't want anybody in her business. So she wouldn't tell anybody what was going on. So this group, I brought this group together, not just for young women, it's for old women, because we go through stuff too. I was not born saved. So when I started this group, I had to tell them what I went through so they could understand why I wanted to start the group. But if I had somebody that was in my corner that was talking to me on how abuse is not okay, I probably would be further along than what I am. But thank God we only had to fight one guy, and I had to fight him more. His mother called the cops on me. So,
yes, ma'am.
All praise to Allah.
Yes, ma'am.
My whole goal is just that the devil is walking up in our church, like I said, and he's attacking our young women.
That's right.
And nobody's noticing it.
Well, dear sister, please, if you could, in terms of how if women, because I'm pretty sure you offering it to not just the women in the church, right? Where you are,
everybody. It's for anybody that want
to community.
Yeah, so please, if you can announce in terms of how they can get in contact with you, the location. You said you're going to change it to every third Friday. So
it's going to be every third Friday at New Psalmist Worship Center at 401 Avon Avenue. They can call me at 862-754-3594. They can email me at 2 TALL143 @gmail.com. And they can also come to the church on Sundays if they want to at 8:45, and we can talk about it if they want to join. And like I said, they don't have to be a member of this church. It's for the community, because I always have this saying, am I my sister's keeper? And I always say, yes, I am. And I mean that when I say that.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. And as you go out on that note, I want you to know that I have been trying to, and I'm not going to give up until I can really make it happen. There is some DV, domestic violence work that goes on in our community-based violence intervention ecosystem, but it always, my judgment, needs more, right? And I have been tasked to develop what we call 100 Black and brown men against domestic violence, right? And it's educational stuff, community awareness stuff, hell raising in the street stuff, sometimes security, whatever we figure out it needs to be. But that's a conversation that I'm trying to elevate in our CVI space. I want you to know that. And so we definitely need to be talking about that too on the regular. All right. You have allies, you have support within our ranks.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Reverend Roundtree, any closing announcements?
Well, we know tonight that our mayor is hosting his men's meeting, Minister Abdul Muhammad, which normally you would be right there front and center, because all of those meetings in the beginning, he was one of our main encouragers, speakers, and participators. This is Autism Awareness Month as we're coming to a close. Those who are dealing with the Ministry of Autism parents, we are praying for you. We also know that the upcoming month is Mental Health Awareness Month, as well as lupus. We're hosting a basketball game, Hoops for Lupus, on May 23rd. I gather we won't be back on before then, but I'll get that information to Brother Ed to share. There is a couple of mental health seminars that are coming up and roundtables. I will get that information to Brother Ed for next month. There's a Voices of Excellence citywide choir that, if you saw the mayor's State of the City, they performed before the mayor did his State of the City, and they rehearse every Saturday at 3:00 at the Trek Center, which is now called the Temple of Hip Hop at 55 Ludlow Street, Newark, New Jersey.
Now, we got to tell everybody why it's now the Temple of Hip Hop.
Huh? I'm going to let you do that when I finish my announcements, because I know about KRS-One and how it got to all of that. We should have came in with, Jonathan might be a good one to do that. But let me get through my announcements before Jonathan come on here telling us I got to go. Okay. Show this space. Now you want me to give a dialogue on the Temple of Hip Hop, Ludlow Street, which KRS-One in the city of Newark, and now running. You just threw me all off. Oh gosh. But what I do want to do before I leave, as we extend condolences to the family of Bishop Griffin, Duke Griffin, from the Upshur family, transitioned yesterday, or day before yesterday. We have some soldiers that have been called from labor to reward, but I don't know who's going to play this later, see this later, or hear this now. We've got to learn as a people to respect individuals when a loved one is transitioned.
That's right.
They didn't do this. They don't do this to these other folk. Senator Rice, Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver, and I'm not scared to say it, Minister Abdul-Haq, and I really don't concern myself with how people feel about what I say, because if God puts it on my heart to say it, I got to say it. And they might discuss in the background who gonna talk about who replacing. You know, they might, and I don't want to just call the Caucasians or the clear people. You're not calling them clear people with need some sun, or they okay without the sun, whatever you want to say. I'm just saying, but we don't have that in their communities. You don't see Tap Into and all these folks going on when someone that's not of color transition in a high position. They're not on the news talking about 15 people replacing the individuals.
Globe article.
Lieutenant Governor, Senator Rice, and now the Honorable Donald M. Payne, which family had a strong legacy in this city. And I said it on the council meeting the other night. We know how politics are, and we know it can be a bloody sport. But why do we have to be the ones to do it to our own people? Right. Not let families grieve, not give them a moment. People were calling Melina Ali people to find out who was going to be the next preacher before Pastor Ali was even in the ground. What is wrong with us? People, this man hadn't been gone half a day before they had already leaked it to the media. And when I walked in City Hall, Channel 4 walked up to me, but I just seen an article with 18 faces. And before I could get in, she just walked into a storm. Because when she walked up to me, I said, ma'am, I almost had to catch myself, Baba, because there is a Louise. And I thank God that Louise is delivered. And that Reverend Roundtree just said, look, ma'am, this is not the time. But if Louise had addressed her, it would have been on Channel 4. So, and it wouldn't have been nice. But would they bring this stuff out of us? Donald Payne, congressman, councilman, father, husband, activist, son of the former congressman, council president. We blow our people up and they have all these titles, and then when they die, you're cleaning their desk off before they're on the cooling board.
Right. Yep. Come on.
Talk about who won't take the seat. Let me be very clear.
And listen, out of all them people, he has family. Mm-hmm. Everybody was on the list, but his cousin, who's also
Stanley,
right? He should have been. If it's gonna be a list, start with the family.
Well, watch this. We don't know who did the list, but let me just say this. You know how they play us against each other. It might have been one of us and them. Who knows? And I don't know because I wasn't in the room, so I can't say nothing. But the truth is, you can't speak about what you don't know. But what I do know is I saw the article. What I do know, Channel 4 approached me. What I do know, that it was leaked out. And what I do, I can't talk about what I don't know. I can only talk about what I know. So I don't know who did the list. I don't know. What I do know is the man transitioned yesterday morning. It got out, fine. He's a public figure. We know that's possible to happen. We know that's going to happen. But I hope that the dignity and integrity of our brothers and sisters, even if it's your opportunity to go for that seat, that you will do it with some decent, do it decently and in order, and allow this family to have their time and let God choose you if it's your assignment after this brother has been laid to rest. We got a mayor, we got a council, we have a state chair, we've got a county chair, we've got all these different people. And I have nothing against anyone who aspires to do great. especially our young people. Listen, I'm the first one to encourage, and there's people out there will tell you, my quote is, preparation for the next generation. Who out there think they so prepared to deal with this generation coming, current, and behind you? Because those are things you got to deal with when you get on that floor. That's what you got to do, which means we got to have greater. Not just because you got a name. I got a name. I was born great with a great name. But the truth is, I'm saying to my brothers and sisters, please, whoever getting this message, let's be respectful to our brothers and sisters when they transition. And if you don't care, wait until you get in that seat yourself and your mama or your father or your husband or your child transitions. And see, do you want somebody trying to take their job before you had a chance to even get to the funeral home to make arrangements for them? That broke my heart. Broke my heart.
I mean,
Lieutenant Governor. Okay, so anyway, no more announcement.
No. This is the same segue into what we were talking about, right? Because at 7 o'clock, we're going to be doing an entire tribute all next show to our friend, the congressman, right? Like, but I wanted to just take this 15 minutes because I know that like we're grieving, right? Like we lost our friend, we lost someone who was a part of what we do. We're someone we had conversations with. Some of you known even a lot more, right? Like over the years. And I just wanted to give this space so that, and this is perfect time because all of you are a part of our show and a part of what we do and a part of the mission of, just of all the stuff that we do, right? And so these losses in the last 2 months have been a lot, right? And I know they have affected all of us deeply, right? So I wanted, Ed, all of us to be around, and just to say, we were very grateful, to Donald Payne for the conversations, for the insight, for the back and forth, for all of that through the years, right? Like over 10 years, right? Like of these conversations that were good, and just to lift him up, right? Like, because I know that some people were like, oh, was he? I mean, this is before, right? Like when he had to defend his seat, et cetera. People were like, one progressive. And it was like he votes the way AOC voted 97% of the time, right? He does what the congressman should do most. He brought money home to the district.
That's right.
And he was always bringing money home for this and money home for that, making sure that would happen. He had great connections with people. He would talk about how he took what we did in Newark. One of the stories, and again, we'll talk about a lot of this, spending a lot of time next week. But I remember learning about what he did with the infrastructure bill because he was on that committee, and how he got what Newark did in terms of paying for the private lines with public money, so that homeowners, right, could afford to change lead line lines, which is a problem all over the United States. He took solutions that happened in Newark and he pushed them. So, like, I think there was $36 billion nationally in the infrastructure bill, so that what happened in Newark could happen all over the country. And he was like, yeah, and I'm trying to get more of that money back to Newark, right? Like, so just wanted to take a little bit of time, right, just to have people talk a little bit before we get to our just in this show, even though we're going to spend all next week on it, before we have our get to the next part about elections and the orange election, et cetera. But so that I just wanted to raise that up. So you were not over this time. It was perfect timing because you were talking about our brother. This is what we do, and it flowed perfectly.
Yeah, God knows best where to place his message, Reverend Roundtree.
Yes.
And I have nothing to say after that, dear sister. I think that the word you gave was inspired by Almighty God. It was a message that we needed to hear and that we need to hear. And we thank you for that. And I have nothing else to say. I think that's the perfect word for the disciples to close on. So thank you so much, Brother Ed and Brother Daeed and Brother Jonathan, Sister Ali. Thank you for giving us your time. We really appreciate it.
I want to encourage people to actually go and look. See, because when you're not involved and you don't read and you're not educated about a thing, all you have is an opinion. And you know what they say about opinions, Minister? Everybody got one. Like the other thing everybody got. Okay, so, and we ain't gonna say what that is, but everybody got one. But the truth is, when you're educated and you know, then you can actually, that's right, Che, he created opportunities. But what I also advise individuals to do, since you want to talk about something, go look up his name and see the bills he sponsored and the bills he signed. Because most of what he did was for the betterment of our people, not just money. Well, some of it involved money, because he also, the diabetic piece, where he wanted to make sure that individuals were able to afford their medicine, because there was a time, and it was through his own experience trying to get his medicine. And because something was going on with his insurance, he had to pay out of pocket, which was almost $600. And he talked about that. So he wanted to, for the person who could not pay, he made sure there was a bill to address those things. So, and this is it. Finish, like you said, that was enough. But we got to read. Don't start talking about what you heard about people, of what they did and did not do. People do it all the time. They got so much to say about what our people did and did not do. They ain't read nothing. And some of what you read, they say believe half of what you see and none of what you hear. Something like that. Half of what you see and none of what you hear. Because sometimes perception of what you see is not what it really is. But if it's a fact, it's a signature on it. 99% of the time. You can sign a check and it might bounce. But if the money's there, you're going to be able to cash it. You can cash it and it bounce. You go to the bank with it, they're going to tell you that money ain't there. So in his case, he signed some things. They were passed. He sponsored some things. They were passed. Those who don't sit on the floor of Congress wouldn't know nothing about nothing he did. Just like I didn't learn until I got to the council meetings. There are people that come and speak. And watch this. The difference with that is people have a right to say what they want to say. Whether it's a fact or not, it's irrelevant to who's speaking. Some have done their homework, some have not. When you start speaking of a man's character, and you start speaking of a man's livelihood and lifestyle, and the work that he or she has done, make sure you got your facts. Because if somebody come back with the truth, you're going to look real stupid because you didn't stand.
Yes, ma'am. Well, that's our word.
Condolences to the Payne family, to Beatrice, the kids, the staff, Samantha, Michael Gray, who worked for him for 20 years, who said the only job he ever really had was with Donald Payne Jr. Adrian Sneed, who helped to raise these children under the leadership. See, when people know the history, Donald Payne Sr. had a staff too, which were part of the upbringing of the children, him and Wanda. So those people are grieving too, because they've been in his life all his life and worked with him and for him and his dad. So let's please, people, please have a heart and put yourself in the position, unless your heart just isn't there. We can't do nothing about that. That's a God thing. I can't tell you nothing about your heart. I can just make the plea to please when it comes to our people.
Well, thank you so much, Reverend Roundtree. And we're going to pray for you and pray for the Payne family and pray for all of us who worked with him and whose life he affected. So thank you so much, Sister Ali and Brother Jonathan and Brother Ed and Brother Zaid. May God bless you all with this next segment. Very wonderful next segment. So thank you. Until the next time, may God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Alaikum salam.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you for joining the disciples. Once again, Brother Ed, thank you. Lady Bellini, Leah Ali, our new co-host. God bless you for having the courage and for agreeing and saying yes to this assignment. Thank God for you. We are excited.
I love you
We're
guys.
asking those who are on, Kimberly Riley, Sybil Brown, Marquise, all of you, Brianna, Che, all of you who are on, text, tag, and tell somebody about the disciples and the information they bring every single week. We can look at each other and share it, but the truth of the matter is how the information gets out and how people learn is by coming on, tuning in, listening, and being a part. I'm so glad to be an activist with you, Baba Zaid. Listen, you do all the real talk. I do all the real
Yeah,
crazy.
but you know what, Roundtree ain't tooting her own horn. She becoming quite the producer too, John, behind the scenes, you know.
Mm-hmm. Oh, of course. Always has been. Always has been.
First Lady, you gonna find that out now. She said she organizing these meetings and telling us who we're gonna put on the show. We're going 3 months in advance. I mean, she can.
That's right. Because you know what?
She
I grew up in this, Baba. Y'all don't forgot about WNJR, WWRL. Y'all don't forgot about those stations. They done kicked off the air. People, because we had partners, it didn't work out. The next thing you know, the clear folk had WNJR. Now, if you're lucky, you might understand what they're saying on the radio. I don't even know because I just, that's just not my station right now. I listen to LIB and 88 and whatever. But the truth is, I was trained on WNJR as a little girl. My godmother, I told you, had a radio show called Seniors in Action, and it was an intergenerational program. So she would tell my mother, I'm taking baby Louise out to the radio station so she can pass out the index cards. So I started out passing out the index cards. Then she had me singing on the show. Then she let me be the co-host with her. So we used to tape 4 shows in a row. So the engineers would be there. We'd invite 15 guests, right? And we'd have to remember that we're doing January 5th. So when I'm on January 5th, January 12th, I said, now thank you and welcome to January 12th show. But we're still on January 5th day doing the taping.
You got it, John.
Thank you, Reverend.
I also want to say welcome to Belina. I didn't get a chance to say that. Welcome so much to the disciples, Belina.
Thank you.
Yes, welcome, Lady Belina, and keep us posted about the work you're doing with the sisters in the community that are going through domestic abuse.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will.
Hi, April. Bye, Donna. Bye, Belina. Bye, Sergeant at Arms, Chaplain Jonathan Austin. And Brother Ed, thank you for the opportunity. God bless you. And everyone have a wonderful weekend.
God bless y'all.
Watch she pop up back in like a half an hour. She gonna pop back in.
Hey, welcome, April Gaunt-Butler. Welcome to All Politics So Local. We believe in civil civic discourse. One of the things that we do as a hallmark of this program is we invite candidates on for public office. Donna was like, look, Orange is having a mayor's race. We need to have the different candidates on. So we invited all the candidates to come on. We're going to have one candidate on this week. We're going to have another candidate on 2 weeks from now. Hopefully we'll get everyone who is on in the next few weeks before the election. But welcome April Gaunt-Butler, who is running for the mayor of Orange, New Jersey. The first question that I will, well,
John,
first welcome.
I'm sorry, just one. Did we not have enough space to put all of April's like titles in there because it's former councilwoman Dr. April Gaunt-Butler.
I'm gonna let her introduce herself for this. So the first part is the introduction. So you are running for mayor of Orange. Give us some idea of your biography and who you are and why you are running for mayor.
Sure. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to spread my message. One thing that I definitely want to say before I even begin introducing myself is an extension of your last segment. So clearly, I knew the Payne family. I know the Payne family. I'm very close with the Payne family, but I just want to publicly offer my condolences to the Payne family. Congressman Donald Payne Jr. and Wanda, we grew up together. Wanda was my line sister in my sorority, and I miss her dearly. And now I will also miss Congressman Donald Payne Jr. I actually grew up under Donald Payne Sr.'s Youth and Government program. And so it's interesting when you participate in a program as a child, you don't necessarily see the value in those things. And this has brought me full circle with regards to some of my life goals, right? So some of my achievements stem from that participation, but I never saw that coming. So long story short, I'm an Orange girl. I grew up in Orange. I love my beloved community. I have been here most of my life. And one of the things I guess that I want to say, okay, so let me just get this out of the way too, some of the demographics. So I have an undergraduate degree in marketing. I have a master's degree in early childhood education. I've completed doctoral coursework in educational leadership. I currently work in the Irvington Public Schools as an instructional coach. And that's essentially a teacher for teachers. So I do a lot of professional development there. But one of the frustrations I've been feeling recently is my escalating tax bill. Along with that, I see a lot of redevelopment in our community. So the challenge for me is I've been here most of my life. And if you don't know the history of Orange and what we undid a lot of the high-rise developments in our community several years ago, or years before this administration came into being. And now to see those things going back up and then not to see any tax equity in it with regards to my tax bill, it's a little frustrating. So that's kind of how I made a decision to get into this mayor race, to give our Orange voters, our astute Orange voters, an option to say, let's take a new direction. So I guess that's it with regards to who I am and what I want to do here in the community. So thank you.
And thank you. And again, welcome. I know that the mayor's race is always going to be heated, and there are always a series of issues to deal with whenever you're talking about running a city. The first category would be like, do you think that there are issues with crime in Orange and policing? And how is it being done right now? Do you like the way it's being done right now? What would you do to change that in areas of public safety?
So I'll say with public safety, specifically crime has gone down in the last few years. So I don't think that is a bad thing. I don't know if I necessarily would change anything. The one thing that I would say is that I think that community policing needs to be expanded. We definitely need to not centralize our community policing. It needs to be in every ward in the community so that if something comes up in a particular ward, it's quickly addressed. But as far as crime is concerned, I think that it's okay.
Right. And on the issue of crime, Zaid, Donna, do you have anything to add or a question to add on that particular issue?
Zaid, you want to go? You want to go first, Zaid?
This Donna's time. I don't need to be riding this pony.
Oh no, I think we all should. As a former Councilwoman Gaunt-Butler said, and who's our candidate for the mayor of the city of Orange, she is our Orange girl who has lived here all her life, and she's done a lot. And I had the pleasure of serving with April on the city council, and I like the way that she led. We both ran for council president. She prevailed, and I served under her when she was council president. She was fair. She demanded a very strict meeting in terms of you just weren't going to talk. You had to be efficient with your time. And as a leader for the council, she did a lot of great things. One of the questions I wanted to ask, and moving from a legislator, and now if you should prevail in this race, you would be the administrator for the city doing the day-to-day. What are some of the things that you would like to see immediately in your first 100 days?
So, and Donna, you know me well. So one of the first things I need to know is what I'm working with, right? So I need to do a forensic audit to make sure of what we have and what we don't have, more importantly. And then I also would want to do some kind of assessment of our infrastructure to make sure our roads are in good shape, to make sure that our water resources are in good shape. So some of the first things that I would do would be to address our financial status and our infrastructure to make sure that we have good public health in place with regards to the community. And then I want to say I'm going to assess every single city department to make sure that they're operating with maximum efficiency, that there's no duplication of efforts, things of that nature, because we need to maximize our tax dollars. We need to maximize our tax dollars. And I think it probably would take me longer than 100 days to do all of this, but that's what I would do as soon as I got into office.
And then coming back in what Jonathan asked about crime and policing, we just recently seen Mayor Baraka, who is the mayor of the largest city in Jersey, issue what probably used to, I want to say it's not the first time in many cities in New Jersey, issue a curfew by 11 p.m. Do you have any thoughts on that? And is that something that you would bring?
So repeat the last part of the question because you broke up a little bit.
She broke up, but
yeah, the last
asked
part.
for whether a curfew, basically, should a curfew be brought? What are your thoughts on a curfew in Newark?
So,
like in other words, should a curfew be in Orange?
Right. So the one thing that we know when summer comes, kids are out and they're out late, right? So one of the things I always think about is offering more recreation, more productive activities for students and children to be in. And I guess if our crime rose to a level that required a curfew, especially for our young people, because it's important to keep our young people safe, I would implement something like that. Right now, I guess, like I said, crime seems to be doing okay. Our police department seems to be doing a good job here in the city. And so we're grateful for that. But certainly we would try and look at ways to mitigate any kinds of harm that would come to our young people and any resident in the community for that matter.
So on an issue that like in all cities deal with, one issue they deal with is public safety. The other they deal with is economic development. You notice that you mentioned that there was a lot of buildings, there were things being built inside of the city. What are your concerns about development right now? What would you do differently? And does this bring out issues of gentrification? Like how is Orange being developed and is it going in the right direction? And if not, what would you do differently?
Okay. That's a loaded question, but I'm trying to answer it. Okay. So I think that, again, I want to go back to our history. We really stepped away from building these high rises. But as I've been out in the community and going into some of the buildings, the new redevelopment that is here in the city, there are challenges and some of the residents are speaking to those challenges, whether it is parking, whether it is access to services, whether it's communication with the city and learning how to navigate the different departments. There are challenges. And again, the biggest challenge is there's no tax equity. So I think if I were to get elected mayor, or when I get elected mayor, I should say, I would definitely push the stop button on the current redevelopment because I don't believe there's a plan. I would stop. I would develop a master plan that fits the Orange community. And then I would go forward with trying to look for some more commercial development that could share the tax burden and create some tax equity through tax revenues.
Now, you speak of tax equity. Just for clarification, what do you mean by tax equity?
So I mean, I would like to see some commercial and some commercial development in the community that would share the tax burden along with taxpayers. A lot of the redevelopment that you see in the community is tax abated or pilot programs. So they pay a small portion of what they should be paying for the full assessed value of the development that they have in our community. And that's a challenge. And then the term of the tax abatement is 20, 25 years and more. And so again, for us to wait 25 years to get tax equity and share the tax burden is a little too long.
Okay. Next, the question would be about just education, right? Like there are different relationships that different mayors have with the educational process. Sometimes in some cities it's appointed, in some cities it's elected. In some cities, even when it's elected, there's a lot of influence, right? What is your stance on education in the city of Orange? What would you do as mayor? How would you influence the education that's going on inside of the city?
So we know that there would have to be collaboration between the administration, the mayor's administration, and our public school system. They are two separate budgets, but there should be collaboration. One of the things that I am a firm believer in is getting that library open and making sure that it's sustained and that it is an inviting and thriving place like it was when I was a child growing up in this community, somewhere where you wanted to go and you could access information. I think that's an integral part of the learning situation or access to information here in the city. The other thing that I think that we could look into is finding some alternative spaces. One of the things that existed so some of the history that we actually have, I want to say, was good, and we should bring those things back. So one of the things that we had in our public school systems, and it was collaboration, there was an adult school at night. So you could get enrichment courses or you could get life skill courses that would actually, you would take away this knowledge and expertise, and then you could parlay it into something valuable in your life. So those kinds of things we need to bring back. I was a girl that grew up in the YWCA. I ended up getting my lifeguard, which ended up giving me summer employment. So those kinds of spaces also had classrooms and settings in there where you could actually have, again, maybe some after school programs and maybe some enrichment programs there where, again, adults and children could learn. So I think there are many ways that we can collaborate with the public school system. But in addition to that, we can expand some of our learning spaces so that our community can thrive.
Okay, and so you are also running on this issue of education. Is there something that you think that is going wrong currently that you as mayor would help to fix? I know you mentioned the library. Could you elaborate more on that? Like Orange doesn't have a library, or like, could you elaborate more on that? And what other things would you do to be different from the current administration?
So Orange's library has had challenges over the years. It's opened and closed many times. And so because of that, I feel some of the reading programs, some of the literacy initiatives that would take place typically in the Orange Public Library have not been able to take place, right? So we need to make sure that, again, we get that open, that it's sustainable, it stays open, and that we also bring in some of the 21st century state-of-the-art technology and infrastructure to make it a place where people want to go and want to share information and access information and participate in those kinds of programs like reading initiatives and literacy initiatives. Again, I think because there are two separate budgets, the city and the public school system, I think there are also many opportunities for collaboration. And so I think those are the two things that we would really need to capitalize on to move our students forward. And then there are so many other things that we could do. And I want to say collaboration wise. So one of the things that we had years ago in the city of Orange was called the Beautification Project. But what the Beautification Project did was it involved our public school students with helping clean up the community. So learning to take care of your environment, right? And then the other thing that the Beautification Project did was plant flowers in different unexpected places. So that was another great thing. And then the last thing, and this was all done at no cost to Orange taxpayers, because a council member actually was the one who developed the program. But then the other thing that they did was that they had students. They offered students in our public schools the opportunity to make posters and I guess talk about and discuss all of the things that they learned while they were experiencing the hands-on clean up the community project. So again, there's learning, it's alternative learning, it's hands-on, and it's a wonderful collaboration between the city and the public schools. If we could do more things like that, I really believe that we could push the needle forward as far as our kids and their education, and project-based learning is an exceptional way to learn.
And I know that we're running close to the end of this particular segment, but I want to give you a chance to talk about, like, what are the most important changes that you think need to be made? Like, if you were mayor, like, what are the things that you would be like, hey, this is why I'm running for mayor. This is what I see as needing a difference. This is what I see as needing to have some form of change. This is where, like, this is the reason to vote for me.
Okay, so you guys definitely don't have a long enough show for me to say that, but I'm going to say this. Public safety, tax equity, using underutilized resources, buildings. We have structures here that could be repurposed. Incorporating some kind of creative and innovative ways to create home ownership opportunities like condominiums, right? Again, that would feed into our tax revenue and create tax equity. Other things, I've been out on the streets and people are saying, hey, we're new to this community, we like it, but we need to diversify some of our retail establishments. So looking again for that commercial development in the community. Again, education is at the core of everything I do. So if I can educate the youngest to the oldest, those are some of the things that I would like to do. If I can make sure that our seniors are engaged in the community in active ways, I would make sure that that occurs. And then again, one of the things that is missing, and that's one of the elephants in the room too, is that Orange Memorial site. It's a huge site that has been unoccupied for over 20 plus years. And one of the things I know as a recent caregiver is that when there is an emergency in the home and it has to do with health, you need a healthcare facility. Now, I'm not saying that we need a hospital, but we would need something like an urgent care facility here so that if people were in need of healthcare provisions, they would be there for them. So those are some of the staples that I would run on. Again, I say we stop the button, we reset with regards to redevelopment, and look for other ways to bring commercial development into our community that would create tax equity.
And Donna, is there something that you'd want to ask? Because I know that we're running out of the segment, but I know you want to probably have one more question.
No, I'm having connectivity problems. So broadband and Wi-Fi is big in urban areas. Has that something with you in education? And I know you were in education during the virus and everything. How do you think we can improve Wi-Fi and broadband in our communities?
So that's a very good question. I would have to do some research on improving it. And I would hope we would be able to do that in an eco-friendly way, because I would like Orange to move towards being more of a green space and live and, promote some green initiatives in our community. But we did have no, I don't want to say we had challenges with regards to broadband width, but I will say this. Years ago, I remember one of our senior facilities didn't have access to the internet, and I was able to do that. I was able to bring that to fruition while I was in office. I was able to make sure that that particular building, it was 400 Oakwood Avenue, made sure that they got internet access and accessibility to information. And I think it's primary. I think it's very important that we have the tools that we need in the toolkit to make sure that we can maximize all of our options. And that is certainly an integral part of education. And so if I need to research, I'm a good researcher. If I need to do that to figure out how to make sure that that is a stable staple in our community, then that is something that I'm most willing to do.
Thank you so very much for coming on. And the last question we always ask everyone, we are a program that's rooted in hip hop. And so who is your favorite hip hop artist, individual or group?
Ooh. Okay, I'm going to say.
Or who are you rocking with now? Who is the spirit of your campaign?
Okay, I don't know if this is the spirit of my campaign, but I am going to say that I'm a Mary J fan. So I'm going to go with Mary J.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. She was the queen of hip hop soul. So yes. Thank you so much. When is the election? What's the date?
Date is Tuesday, May 14th. Please vote April Gaunt-Butler 2A for a change in orange.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. An honor to have you on. And
thank you. And nice meeting you all. Thank you so much.
Have a good day.
Welcome.
All right, cool. So we thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for your patience as well, Barbara Horne. Now, Baba Zaid said where you were at the United Nations, and that you were talking there apparently, and I didn't even know this, there's a panel, there's a whole conference on the Black diaspora, right? And Black people all over the world that's at the United Nations, and they make, right? I didn't even know that, right? Mm-hmm. And that, when we talk about reparations, a lot of times people think that reparations is only like a U.S.
national Pan-African conversation.
But it's a international Pan-Africanist conversation. Baba Z, give us an introduction, and then let's get right into this discussion, because I think it's fascinating.
Well, first, this queen is one of the unsung in our community. I remember when she was a young poet, lyrical warrior coming straight out of New Brunswick in the 90s, and was all up and down the East Coast and Jersey doing some great things lyrically. He was an excellent writer, but then just reemerged recently. She reached out to me and tried to get me into national space that I've always been in politically, but then they've never actually presented in the actual sense. And let me contextualize that this week. Y'all heard me talk about a lot, and about Malcolm's history, and April being a month for this and month for that. 60th anniversary of the Ballad of the Bullet. People think of the Ballad of the Bullet, Malcolm launching in this whole notion of Black nationalism and a radical interpretation and application of the vote. But let us now also remember that he announced in the Ballad of the Bullet, this year, April 12th, of the 60th anniversary of the Detroit presentation of that he was getting ready to go take our case to the United Nations, charging the United States government with his big bad bully self with genocide over violating the human rights of African people here in the United States, right? And not only was he going to do that, but that was a part of a solidarity strategy that would inject our struggle, which had been cordoned off by liberal philanthropy through the so-called civil rights movement. Y'all, I want you to hear what I'm saying, right? Into being stuck to the confines of what can or cannot happen by virtue of social change in this country, by virtue of the permission of U.S. courts and U.S. legislation, right? Malcolm said, no. There's revolutionary anti-colonial struggle going on all over the world. We want to be in some of that. We want to change the whole thing. We want some systems change, right? And so Malcolm almost single-handedly liberated struggle from the confines of that confining paradigm into the larger worldwide revolutionary struggle that he had actually referred to during that time. Now, we have to say, a lot has happened in 60 years, right? There's been neo-colonial tendencies that has compromised some of those spaces that in a way that did not exist during that period. But even in its limitations, the United Nations is still the major vehicle for international human solidarity in the world as we know it, right? And it's a huge important player right now as we talk about this thing that's happening in Gaza, with the genocide in Gaza, right? Our forces coming out of those various traditions that I just described have been driving the international conversation that has the almost entire world condemning the lone superpower in the Middle East, bought and paid for by the United States government, that is Israel, that has now isolated for the first time in a long time Israel in its genocide. So even though it doesn't have the enforcement authority that some of us would like it to have, the United Nations is still the beachhead for international human solidarity. Now, several years ago, right, there's been important developments of recognition of African people, but in particularly the whole question of how does the international community come to terms with the transatlantic slave trade, and certain projects came out of that, particularly focusing on the African world. And one has been the United Nations Permanent Forum of People of African Descent. And the first thing they created, and then I really should let Barbara tell us, but I'll let her come back. This is the teaching platform, Barbara, but I just wanted to hook this up this way, right? Is the decade, the decade of people into the International People of African Descent, 2015 to 2024. We're winding up that decade, and there have been important conversations, African people from the diaspora and on the continent, to try and forge some goals and objectives to really try and map out some united strategies for some things that we need. Barbara's all up in this. And when she called me, and I hadn't heard or seen her in years, I said, "What? I know you was wrong." I'm like, what? And invited me to get on an important conversation around investigations that some of our folks were doing on policing in this country. And of course, y'all know my history on that. But Barbara, with a number of forces, has been very much a part of these conversations at that particular level, made a hell of a presentation just a couple of days ago. I don't know if we can share it because it was only 2 minutes, but it was one of the most loaded 2 minutes that I've seen in that front from folks that I know. But she killed it in a very comprehensive way, and focusing on an area that most of our folks in those conversations haven't focused on. So I just wanted, I couldn't let that go by and not us have a conversation about what it means. What is the relevance of the United Nations right now to people of African descent? Why is it still important to be engaged on that front? Who's doing that work and what's on the table, right? And this is somebody who is at the table who can help us have that conversation. So it is in this way that we welcome you to the show, my queen. Good to see you.
Thank you. And I think you set that up perfectly, because this is something I wrestle with a lot, because the United Nations, like you said, is still extremely important. But we know that sometimes some of the things that we go to the UN with, they don't have the bite or the teeth that we want them to have. So I come into it thinking each time, what is the role for us? And by us, I mean people of African descent from the United States. And one of the first things I think is that we just need to be at the table. We know that power dynamics shift, and they sometimes shift quickly. And when we have the opportunity to speak truth to power, we want to take it. So in this instance, we have the opportunity to submit written statements, to make what you heard, which was a 2-minute intervention. Not much, only 2 minutes, but hey, we pack what we can into that 2 minutes, to attend these conferences, to network. And so we want to take that opportunity. And that brings me to the second point, the networking. I mean, if all else fails, it is just beautiful to see 1,000 people of African descent from around the world all in that one space. Like I was walking out the UN and I ran into a young man. We were both getting on the same train because the train is right near where the UN is in Geneva. And he's like, wow. He was like, I was at a different conference. He's like, but I walked into that conference instead. I left my conference and came over to your conference. And I said, well, where were you at? He said, oh, I was at the Science and Technology Conference. I said, oh, I was going to go to that too. I'm in technology. He was like, yeah, but that conference, that people of African descent was better. He's like, I think I need to be at that next year. And I said, yeah, you do. I said, because if nothing else, just having the opportunity to network. And that third thing that I think is important for us is kind of what we haven't actually found yet. When I go to this, it's, as you pointed out, Zaid, it's kind of new. And we have so many opportunities with technology, with the networking, with this mandate to maybe open up some other economic opportunities that we just haven't even seen yet. We might have some opportunities to call out what's going on with some of these imperialist governments and multinationals, not just within our own countries, but kind of across the globe. Like maybe they're doing okay in some areas here in the US, but then how are they impacting those in the islands? How are they impacting those on the continent with their different decisions? So I think there's just a lot of untapped opportunity. And by us kind of staying at the table, networking, and just constantly thinking about what it is we can do and how we can use this, then I think we'll kind of figure out as we go along all the different ways that we can strategize to actually make more of an impact.
On that level, right? Like you're saying, make more of an impact, and you're saying networking opportunities, and then you mentioned 2 minutes. Well, just start with the first one. What was
Sure.
that 2 minutes? What was said? Like, break it
Sure.
down. Like you meant,
Sure.
both of you were very vague in 2 minutes. So what was the 2 minutes? What was it about? What was said? Do we have it on tape?
We do, and we do. So to sum it up as briefly as possible, for the last 10 years, I've been the UN rep for this organization, Athletes United for Peace, and I'm on the board. And one of the things of a community coalition of different leaders, people that I know, and I reach out to people like Zaid, who's in the community, and just try to roll up the issues to the various UN conferences, not just this one. One of the things I noticed is one of the big things at the UN is the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. There's 17 goals that the UN member states, mean all these different countries, try to come together on and see if they're actually trying to accomplish. One of the most basic is eradicate poverty. So it is a goal for the different countries of the world to try to eradicate poverty. And they measure this every September when they have General Assembly in New York. They've gotten the different corporations involved. Like I can open up my phone right now. There's an app on Samsung that talks about SDGs, SDGs, SDGs. Now, when I look at what they've done with racism, they've come up with something called the Durban Declaration and Program of Action. It was very important, came out of in a very important conference that happened in 2001. And it says a lot, 120 pages, about 200 or so actions, various ways for everything from development of infrastructure to, improving health systems, educations, etc. But where I thought there was some room to improve was to have some more measurable objectives to it. So, for instance, again, thinking about these SDGs, eradicate poverty, every year the UN looks more than every year and sees how each country has contributed to eradicating poverty. They look at the different indicators like jobs, whether people have homes, access to needed resources, and they use it to try to figure out how close they are to eradicating poverty. Now, with this Durban Declaration, again, it's monumental. It's a landmark. People came together and really struggled to get us here. So it's extremely important. But it has a lot of suggestions in it and things that are a little bit hard to measure. So part of what we came up with was measurable goals and targets in obtaining justice for people of African descent. And we called it the Blueprint for Justice for People of African Descent. And I attempted in 2 minutes to try to give an idea of why this is needed, in addition to the Durban Declaration and in addition to the Sustainable Development Goals, all of which are good, but they're lacking about how we're going to actually eradicate racism. And how we're going to measure that we're eradicating racism year to year. How are we figuring out if we're getting closer to eradicating racism? I don't know. Every year we come to these conferences, but we can't really tell what's working and what's not. So that was the 2 minutes to just say, hey, in terms of eradicating racism, in terms of getting justice for people of African descent, let's get some measurable goals and targets so we can look back, we can figure out what's working, what's not, and how we course correct and get to where we need to be.
Good job.
I was going to say, wow, what could be measurable goals? I mean, that's brilliant, right? Like, what could be measurable goals when it comes to racism, right? Like, because we think about the different things, because it's just wild, because you could think of health disparities, you think of incarceration, you think of murder, like, you think of all the things that differently that affect us, and there's so many. What would be an international rating system? Is it ownership of property? Is it like businesses? Quantifying that is actually something that I've never heard of that, right? Like a racism index, right? Like how crappy is your country, right? I've not heard that, and it's kind of brilliant because you're right. It's like we say we want to decrease racism, stop hate, and it's just all like it's not quantifiable in that way. What are some of has there been after that, or at least a recommendation, your country is less racist this year than it was last year?
Maternal mortality. That's, it has gotten at least some attention. And it got a bit of attention at this conference, which was good to see. But I'm sure you both know that Black women die in childbirth at a higher rate than white women. So we can look and see that there are less deaths year to year, and we can see a reduction from year to year if we put certain things that have been known to work in place, certain education plans, resources to both women and doctors and other medical professionals. And we can look year to year and see if we're actually getting closer to eradicating that. So, I mean, that's just one example, but I feel like it's a pretty easy one to actually look at and see, do we have less deaths? If we do, what are the most contributing factors? And then how can we, how can we scale this? How can we replicate it? Another would be something like infrastructure. We're thinking in the US, like we're here, we at least able to connect. You go other places, they can't even connect. They don't even have infrastructure. They don't have internet. So the idea of even getting businesses up, or Black businesses, first requires you have electricity consistently. These are things we can measure. We can measure these things. So there are, like I said, the Durban Declaration has a couple hundred in there. Some of them can be coupled down. And what they've done with the SDGs, because we have two models. There actually is an index floating out there. So that's a little something different. But it is floating out there. I've seen it. But the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, already give us a model for this. The member states, the countries come together and they have different plans of actions and targets, and they measure it themselves. We don't have to do that. We don't have to sit here, 3 of us or even, 30,000 of us, and come up with this. They can come up with it and they can measure it. We can call our corporate friends and call Wall Street. They know how to measure and count. They can help us and they can measure. And some of them do. Some of the corporations that have adopted the SDGs, they measure against it and they brag and they say, hey, we reduced this by 15%. We put this amount of money in here. Let's do that with racism.
Because there's a lot of publicly available data that's there anyway. So it's one of those things that, because the data is there, it is publicly available, and it is aggregated by race, right?
Exactly.
So
at
it's
least
just a
in the
matter of
US.
looking at it. Right.
Yeah, at least in the US and in Canada. And that was one of the asks too. Again, thinking back to the Durban Declaration, they have actually started trying to collect additional data, collect aggregated data, and use it. And we need to, I work in data and IT, we need to, be careful with that as well, make sure it's used the way we need it to be used. But that is one of the asks, that we do what we can to collect data and we make sure that we're using it for the right purposes of again, justice for people of African descent and getting us close to the eradication of poverty and the eradication of racism.
And so just for the Durban Declaration is a 2001, it was a 2001 declaration that there needed to be a program of action to deal with racism and homophobia, and xenophobia. Is that what you're talking about when you say Durban Declaration?
Correct.
And a few words need to be said about that too, because that merits some a context discussion. Durban, South Africa, right? 2001 is just 7 years after the end of apartheid as we knew it there, right? It was an incredible coming together, right? And at a place that has been loaded with, centuries of of colonialism in its ugliest forms, that was going through a democratic transformation that had a new constitution to present to the world that looks different from the United States Constitution, by the way, right? That became the locale for folks who look like us coming from all over the world. I almost went and participated in that, but some logistics things wouldn't allow me to do that. But a lot of my comrades did participate in Durban in 2000. When I just lost my big sister Viola Plummer, for example, right? December 12th movement played a very important role in terms of Africans in the United States participating in that, and our folks being in solidarity with that particular struggle. The human rights question, the justice underpinning was driving our thing, but we need not lose sight of the other side of that, and that's the question of how we going to develop, right? How we going to live, right? It's one thing for the police to stop killing us, right? But how do we actually, fill those voids of injustice that don't allow us to live with the dignity and the well-being of human beings, right? So, so Barbara's presentation spoke squarely to that, right? So I really wanted to get her on, and then just talk about also, why that's another important space where we need to be developing united strategies. The question of the United Front is never out of the window, and in fact, it should be one of the principal vehicles that we should always be thinking of, because we're at our best when we're united. We move the furthest when we're united. International community only respects us when we're united, and that's something that Malcolm taught us too, right? So that's from Durban to where we're talking about today. Barbara, break down for those of us who don't know just what is the permanent forum and some of the other arms of the permanent forum of people of African descent, and now that we are in the last year of the so-called decade of people of international descent, how do we evaluate that, and where do we go next moving forward?
So the permanent forum came out of Durban in part, at least that's my understanding. So one of the asks for Durban was a working group of experts on people of African descent. And I went to their conference last year. It was very good. A small group of people from different areas of the world. They that either study or are and study what's going on with people of African descent and make recommendations to the UN and I believe to the private sector. And they also do country visits. So they've been to the US and called out the racism that we're dealing with in policing. They've been to the UK and called out the UK for not really even acknowledging the existence of the racism that the Black people there are dealing with. They've been to various places in South America, etc. So they continue to do that. And the Permanent Forum is a collection of countries that came together to deal with the different issues of people of African descent globally. So the decade, which was 2015 to 2024, International Decade for people of African descent, this first decade deal with recognition, justice, and development. So the conference that I just left was in part set to evaluate that. So the Thursday, I guess last Thursday of the conference in the evening, the afternoon, they were talking about kind of what worked and what didn't. It was a very heated discussion. Some people were like, we didn't do anything. You know, they did do some things, like they got the working group and some of the countries were able to create various committees and things like that to move forward. And what they were going to do next. And that's where they fit my little presentation, because that was part of my suggestion. Like, okay, if you're going to figure out what to do next, we need to measure this. So when we look back in another 10 years, or better yet, a year or 2 year, we can really answer this question more completely. With this last conference, the biggest thing that came out was a focus on reparations, a focus on youth, and a second international decade for people of African descent. And the focus is on addressing systemic racism, reparatory justice, and sustainable development. So those are the key areas that they're focusing on in this next 10 years and continuing to carry out the Durban Declaration and Program of Action. So what Saeed just mentioned, that 120-page document, those 200 recommendations that are there.
I need to add to that also. I'm getting ready to put on our YouTube page, right? UN has and those formations have had a recent impact on our struggle here in a very, very real way, right? A couple of days ago was Mumia's 70th anniversary, 70th birthday. He's still in prison, right? One of those elements charged the United States with violating Mumia's human rights several years ago, around how they were shackling him when he was. Mumia has a skin condition that is I don't have the name for it, but has a skin condition that was a consequence of him surviving hepatitis C, right? And he was being shackled wrongly in a way that only, made his condition worse and really made him susceptible to getting very sick, because when those kind of things are irritated, they're not treated, you're talking about infection and all that kind of thing with somebody, an elder, right? When he went into court the last time, right? There was an amicus brief filed on his behalf, seeking justice, that he should be definitely considered for release based on how his case was handled. Now, and even though they got a new pretty black judge that they rolled out in a very Philadelphia Thomasina way, and did not grant Mumia his freedom when they should have at the very least granted him a fair trial, they went nuts when they saw that amicus brief coming from the United Nations. It was the first time in a long time that the state, as we know it, responsible for Mumia's condition and captivity, really was like, we really are being looked at for how we handling this thing with this guy, right? And so I mean, so that solidarity was not just solidarity that was of a principle and a political kind. Those were real places of intervention. Those are real places of intervention, right? And I've always said, and we have always said, and I'm just using Mumia as one example, right? That it's not the people of Philadelphia that has saved Mumia's life. The campaign to free Mumia Abu Jamal has always been international, right? And the solidarity that we have gotten from international quarters, from as far away as South Africa, right? Far away as Paris. We had a delegation from Paris with us on the street that presented a fresh petition to the liberal DA Larry Krasner, who lets everybody out of prison except Mumia, right? So so this whole question of international solidarity is not just a political one or a social one or a moral one. There are spaces for intervention, right? So our presence in all this is important, and I'm very proud of how this queen has been rolling, and she even invited me, and I should say this also, because the other space that we mentioned, the Emler, and I forget what the hell all the acronym means, right? But the experts that deal with law enforcement, right, known as the Emler, had me talk to them about racialized policing on the one hand, and the flip side, what we're doing in Newark, New Jersey, and leading the way, right? Standing on the shoulders of this little brother that's getting ready to come on behind Barbara around community-based violence intervention. That is the reimagining of public safety, right? You have me talking to a body of international experts, right? Just based on the strength of what I do and have been doing for years, and that translated, right? And I wasn't the only one, would make that clear, but that translated into them coming to the United States, visiting and doing investigations of our policing in several cities, and putting out a study on what's wrong with policing in the United States and what the United States needs to be doing. Eyes are on the United States critically, like it hasn't been since the days of Malcolm X, right? So the question of international human solidarity is huge. The question of the relevance of the United Nations, even with its limitations, still matters. And it's a place where we need to be looking at that and always looking to build that Pan-African unity.
And that's why we need to stay in the room. We have to stay in the room. We have to keep submitting statements. We have to take those opportunities to make interventions like you did virtually, like I did in Geneva. And we have to, as you said, coalition to actually do that and make sure that we keep speaking truth to power there as we're doing that work on the ground. And I think, again, yes.
And Sister Barbara, I was going to say, we're going to have you back because the time is never enough. And and so we have to bring you back soon and more often to talk. But this is a hip hop political show, and the work that you're doing as you move around the world, you have to be inspired. So is there a hip hop artist, individual, or group? And I think in the beginning I heard Zaid say that you were a poet as well. So I know it has to be a hip hop artist, individual, or group that you listen to keep you doing the work that you do. So could you tell us who that was?
There's a few group that I like that I listen to a lot. It's called Black Violin. They're two brothers. Okay. They do literally, I think one is a viola. I don't know the difference. But I went to see them in concert. I'm sorry.
Viola is smaller.
I still don't know the difference, but I believe you. And I went to see them in concert. They were amazing. They had a packed house. I think they played with Alicia Keys. You can go YouTube and find them. So Black Violin. Definitely something to that's my running in the mornings music that I'm inspired. And my poet, I have to say, is always Nikki Giovanni.
Okay. Well, we will definitely bring you back.
Thank you so much.
So please don't be a stranger. And if you ever need a buddy to come with you, please get my number and we can always go. We would
love that.
and learn.
And
You're gonna hear
I think
from
this
me.
is,
Yes, ma'am.
and I think this is Black Violence website that they're on tour.
Yes,
So yeah, I just wanted to throw them up.
it's a great show. Great, you can take anybody. It is a great show.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Barbara McCall, great show. Appreciate you, Queen. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. Good
All
stuff.
right, well, Zaid, you can introduce our next guest.
Now, you know, this is Dre. I just introduced this last segment, of course, in a very Malcolm-sized way, right? This is the 60th anniversary of Malcolm's Ballad of the Bullet. I just came back from Savannah, Georgia, at the Savannah Community Art Gallery that has his seminal letter from Hajj on exhibit. Yesterday was the 60th anniversary of him releasing that letter that went to the black press. See, they was trying to figure out how to co-opt Malcolm even before he got. They didn't even wait for him to be dead, right? He's in Mecca and in Africa, you know, pulling together a united strategy for us to break this civil rights paradigm and whatnot. And they're trying to steal and co-opt this letter that he wrote about Hajj to try and water him down before he even got off the plane coming back. And of course, as soon as he got off the plane coming back, he straightened him out on that, right? But that letter was still a seminal letter, but it was a gateway to Malcolm placing our struggle right in the throes of the international revolutionary struggle of that particular moment. This is our 31st year, the work of the Malcolm X Commemoration Committee that was started by the great Herman Ferguson, one of Malcolm's comrades and one of our former political prisoners, along with Yuri Kuchiyama and some others, really, you know, tough people who were very close to Malcolm, and then some of us who are, you know, young Malcolmites like I was back in the day, that came together to defend Malcolm's legacy at a time when Hollywood was looking to co-opt his legacy. One of the young men in our ranks was this young man, right? Andre Mitchell, better known as A.T. Mitchell, right? And who leapt from that and got back in the streets of Brooklyn. You talk about the work of the mighty Newark Anti-Violence Coalition in Newark. Dre was doing what we would later do back in the 90s, right? And develop something called Man Up, challenging black men to take responsibility for their community and to build the kind of peace on the streets that we've been trying to figure out for a minute. And that entity that he created became one of the leading pioneering vehicles, right, around what we now call community-based violence intervention, right? This is my little sister almost jumped out there around the same time, maybe a few years later, in Erica Ford, who came out of the December 12th movement. Y'all know Erica, right? Life Camp, who had to step away recently from what she did for over 20 years because of her health. And this is the kind of work, if you're not taking care of yourself, can really take a toll on you, right? And healers need healing, right? So, and he is now the Czar of gun violence prevention and reduction in the city of New York. And as we try and develop, you know, continuing to educate our community about the value and the strategic use and efficiency of community-based violence intervention, I'm trying to regularly bring on folks who are doing that work locally and nationally that our community needs to learn from. So I'm proud to have this brother here because he is indeed one of our lead pioneers nationally in one of the biggest, baddest cities in the world, straight out of the streets of Brooklyn, who've been putting it in and getting it done. So, brother, come on in, talk to us. Talk to us, beloved. What's happening?
Wow,
Good
peace. Beloved, it is good to see you all. I'm listening, I'm watching you all. I'm learning from you all. It is just an honor to be a part of your program tonight. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the introduction, Brother Zaid. As you mentioned, we go back to the Malcolm X Commemoration Committee. I was just a young, just a zealous young individual who wanted to just, learn more about community, about, of course, leadership, and you all poured into me, Baba Ferguson, and all of those members at that time. It just was, I mean, I was just honored to be at your all's footsteps and to learn from you. And then to take that torch, as you mentioned, and to carry it just another, couple of miles, right down the road. This is a marathon that we're on, and to invent and to reinvent. I don't like to say invent, but to reinvent. The work, to continue the work that has been done for so many years on, as our elders and our ancestors have laid it out for us to do. And so I am just nothing different than any of you. I'm continuing to do my part. I'm privileged to have been in the presence of so many greats that have poured into me, that I've learned from, so many great mentors and femtors that have poured into me. Now, as I continue to want to pour that into it, I have a class that I teach actually at 8:30, and that's why I was saying that I have a hard stop, because I have some students that are waiting for me, believe it or not, on a Friday night, at 8:30 here in Brooklyn. And so I just wanted to be able to just, just come in and of course to be a part of whatever. Know that we are we already are comrades. We see each other on a regular basis out here in the field.
And
real quick, AT, let's in respect for your time, right? Just first, tell the version of your story. What turned you around? I know the story, but I want everybody to hear it. What turned you around that really got you going on this particular vein? How did Man Up develop? Where is Man Up now? And just what is your responsibility?
Yes.
Being the czar of the work in New York City.
Yeah. So growing up, I grew up in Brownsville, in East New York, Brooklyn. So it was really
country, y'all.
Yeah, that's right. Just being a young pup and just being able to, I've seen a lot of things that was going on and I didn't understand. And then, having, like most of us, just making, just becoming a part of the community, becoming a part of the society, whatever, doing whatever that was left out there to do, which wasn't much. So it led me down a path of being able to experience certain things, but one of the things that, again, like I said, when I came to my senses, was that I needed to be involved. I knew it wasn't normal that we were living in certain conditions. I wanted to help change it. And that's when I, of course, was able to be blessed to be around, Dr. Bendelli and Brother Barron and Reverend Daughtry and so many others that, again, that was able to help me grow into the man that I am. That being said, Viola Plum, the December 12th movement, all of them over there at the December 12th movement, as you know, those are people who charge us up. Unfortunately, 20 years ago, around this very time, 20 years ago, there was a shooting in East New York, and an 8-year-old was shot and killed. His name is Deshaun Hill. After, responding to that particular incident, like you said, man, I had to hit the streets. I felt real, upset. I was angry. I didn't understand how cats were taking out their business and not giving people enough time to make it into the crib, considering I once did that myself. But in that, I began to just really begin more involved in, what was happening on the streets with our young people. Then, just continuing on that vein, I learned a lot from our youth, as I continue to do. And I just created safe spaces for them. And when you create safe spaces for them, they begin to trust you. They begin to pour into you. They begin to, to add to whatever you believing in you, allowing you to trust in you, to lead them down, the certain pathways in life that we've already been down. And that's how we've been able to move, man. For the last 20 years now, we have our nonprofit that is based mostly in Brooklyn, but we do, like you said, a lot of work throughout the city and around the country. And from that just persistency and that consistency, 2 years ago, this June, the mayor of the city of New York, who I've known for many years prior to, who always respected me in the work that I was doing, wanted me to help us in the streets of New York. And he appointed me to be a member of his mayor's team and allowed me to co-chair a task force where all the deputy mayors, the first deputy mayors, the deputy mayors, the commissioners, and all of their deputy commissioners, all of them come to a table that I set every single month. And they come to our table where I chair that table, myself and the first deputy mayor, Sheena Wright. And we pour into what resources that they may have. Because the thing about it is we want to prevent gun violence from ever happening and reduce it, while at the same time our whole focus is on young people going upstream. We want to get to them before they make a poor decision that will change the outcomes of their life. And so that's pretty much been what I've been doing now for the last 2 years. Really been amazing, just looking for resources, preventive resources, coming up with prevention strategies. And it's been working. You know, we've been applying ourselves, our organizations, like you mentioned, you know, like Life Camp Inc. and King of Kings. And there's so many different organizations throughout the city of New York that we are, you know, are like. We work in the streets. We coalesce. We all train together. We actually support one another out here in the city, and we come together whenever there's issues of violence, and we call ourselves out. We call our communities out. We let people know that violence is not normal, and that it shouldn't be happening. And so that's just what I'm getting. That's what I continue to do. And you know, it's been a journey, but you know, I'm still inspired. I see a lot of results right now. Violence is down statistically, but perception-wise, it still feels very unsafe. And so we got to change that. We got still a lot of work to do.
And AT, I've seen your page, and it's very to the point, but just being moved after you've seen the baby get shot and what you have been able to accomplish. Like tonight, your class, what is your class a part of the Man Up as well?
Yes, yes, it is. It's a part of something that we try to do with our young people. We're fortunate to have, we created year-round employment programs for our kids now, right? We're just giving them something to do. And you know, what we say in exchange is, listen, can we learn from you? Can we talk together? Can we take out some precious time to be able to hear them and know what they actually want to be able, you know, what some of the things that we could do as adults now? How could we help provide them, help themselves? And so, yeah, that's the type of thing we do all week long. We know we have women groups, we have adult male groups, we have youth groups, we have community, you know, round circles, and that's just all that we can do. As much as we can get together, as long as they with us. Right now, from 8:30 to 10 o'clock, we know that they're not on the street. We know that they're not outside, you know, in the harm's way of God knows what.
Well, AT, thank you. You got to get to that class because we want you to be there. And can you let us know what hip hop artists, as you do this work coming from the radio show to the classroom, your groups, what hip hop artists, individual or group, are you listening to keep you inspired?
You know, that's a really hard question because I like all forms of hip hop. You know, I was just talking about Melly Mel and the Furious Five and all of them earlier. But I love the Roots. I love J. Cole today. You know, I love the artistry, of course, of Nas. My brother AZ, who is a person that I helped grow up and groom into the business, that, you know, still involved in the business. I love so many different artists today. It's incredible. But you know, more of the revolutionary Black conscious rappers is who I really like to listen to.
Well, you should be happy. You know, Black Thought is a keynote speaker at Rutgers graduation this year. So.
Oh wow, terrific! Yeah, I love the Roots. I love what they're doing, and I follow them a lot out of Philly.
Well,
and I know that Donna loves AZ. I think that the was mentioned a lot on here. You're saying that you influenced him early on. I think Donna would be very
We grew up on the same block. We grew up in the same neighborhood. I was, you know, fortunate to be a part of his management team. We're very, very good friends. Brother's very, very talented. He's still out there, still doing his thing. So I'm very proud and privileged to have been a part of his career.
Well, you owe me a follow-up, and you have to break them with you, okay?
Hey, that's nothing. That's nothing. It's just a phone call away for you, sis.
All right. I'm going to hold you to that.
Okay. Thank y'all so much. Yes, I hear you. Brother Zaid, thank you so much for the opportunity. I really do appreciate this. All right.
Keep
I
going.
love you all, and I'll be
Keep
in
going.
touch. Okay.
No
Well,
doubt. No
appreciate you
doubt.
back, man.
On the
All
May
right, man.
19th.
Likewise. Peace.
Yeah, that's
So another segment on All Politics Are Local. We are now, this is the, we are, hopefully we'll get DJ Rhino on for this next segment, but we can continue the conversation. Ed, you're back on. I see Zaid, Donna. Let's just chat it up. What's going on?
Well, how are we doing this week? I know this has been a heavy week ever since we got our text from
Yep.
Bashir, and it's so how passionate when we were talking last week, and it was not what I wanted to hear, but we're here.
Right.
So how are we doing this week after
I think that I'm still numb on it, right? Like I think I'm just processing. I mean, this is the second person in the last 2 months that was an integral part of our show that we interacted with on a regular basis that we cared about, right? Like people we get to know over years. I still can't really process the news, right? Like in terms of it being real, right? So this has been a rough week, right? This has been a rough week in terms of just the thoughts and all the other stuff. So I suspect that none of us are doing well, right? That we are processing, that we are just sitting back and appreciating life, but sad at missing the conversations with our friend.
That's right.
I'll tell you, I'm mad, shocked, and mad because first he called us, had a fall. I'm sorry, missed the show,
Right.
And before we knew it, we were dealing with something entirely different. But that's the shock. But then and we've raised it already in the discussion tonight, and then we've raised it, in the immediate aftermath of getting the news. I'm mad at how, a lot of people are responding to this.
Vultures, right?
That family, Uncle Bill, Father Donald, Donald himself, Craig, that is so much. I mean, this is a legacy that goes back to the 50s. Right? Bill Payne, the big brother out of all of them, goes back with that legacy of commitment to the 50s. And then somebody gonna come running his mouth in white media land because he got privilege like that and they dogs like that, right? Come up with 18 people that they're gonna talk about, not even mention Craig, who is still here, very healthy, right? And actually ran for an office a minute ago, too. Out of all those names on the list, and I ain't taking nothing from anybody on the list, but I mean, damn, you're gonna first not give a damn about giving folks the space and a community the space about losing one of our major leaders for a long time, right? And then when you come up with a list, you don't even start where you should begin. And I'm saying this to those of y'all who are Democrats and whatnot,
or
to the left of the Democrats, right? But to my Democrat family and whatnot, Craig deserves consideration. He deserves consideration. Right? I think he does, right? Just by virtue of how these traditions unfold. Menendez is as corrupt as he is pushing his son, right?
Is he?
If
maybe
they can do that, why can't we have that conversation and have it amongst ourselves first?
All right. And maybe the community needs to speak out because, one of the things I thought about was how he loved his community, and I just, Rhino, this is your time, so I'm going to hand it over to you. But to know that he took up the mantle and ran, I was listening to a speech that he gave when he first went into office, and he said specifically that I'm going to continue what my father had done, and he did it, and he did it well. And if you had the opportunity to be by him when he was working, you knew that this was a passion thing, a love thing, and it was nothing that he was angry about doing, he felt grudgingly about doing, and everything he did, he walked, even the sicknesses, how he walked us through it and put it out there so that we could be better. From the the amputation doctor that he brought on, to how he changed his diet and how he ate and everything. He told us everything. So I'm sorry, Rhino. Go ahead. Yo, this DJ Rhino's time, so.
Yeah, and you know, but to that point, one of the things that I loved about him is that he was humble. He wasn't one of these arrogant, privileged folks around here, you know, with their nose up at the people, not listening to him. He's a humble brother, right? We could talk to him, right? You know, he would be amongst us, you know, and you know, we don't have too many around us that roll like that, you know. So I just let me chill my anger a little bit.
And I'll say, well, when
Rhino,
Jonathan,
I was going to
he
say,
got you. I was just going to say,
I
when
just
I
like your
can't.
feedback.
Go ahead. I was just
You
going to
did
say, when he
something.
got you. Go ahead. Okay.
Yeah, I just checked your feedback. You did something different, and you're starting getting a lot of feedback on your end. All right.
And Jonathan, I just want you to pull up that show when you said something, and you got him so pissed off, and he stood up and he said, "Well, Jonathan, they're gonna just have to wait." And then y'all going back and forth. That was like
Right.
the best show. I mean, the way he set up and he thought about it for a while, and then y'all was just going back and forth. I think that was like one of my favorite shows. And Ed was like, "I don't know what you did to the congressman, but that was
But
like my."
but that's one of the things I super appreciated about the congressman, because like he liked going back and forth, right? Like, he liked having these debates, right? Like he liked being pushed, right? Like the uh, I think when the last time he ran, right? Like the time before this when he ran and he got pushed, I think a lot of people were surprised. I wasn't, but a lot of people were surprised that his voting record was among the most progressive in all of Congress, right? Like he voted with AOC 97% of the time, right? Like, so people were like, so when people were like trying to come at him from the left, the question is, what would you be doing that he's not?
Yeah, they really went
And
into
would you be right? Because I mean, that's why he had, you know, there were members of the squad that were literally directly endorsing him that last time, because they were like, his voting record he was a highly progressive congressman. He's like, people don't think I'm progressive. I don't know why, right? Because of all that. He's like, look at my voting record. And I always appreciated that we got a chance to see how it worked, and he would talk about the money he brought home to Newark, right? He'd always talk about the money he brought home to Newark, because that's number one job of a congressman, right? Make sure that your district is taken care of. So no, I mean we will miss him, and we'll be going back over those memories for a long time, And he appreciated us a lot. I know DJ Rhino, you definitely have some stuff to say, because I know that you know there were some parties that you got invited to in terms of DJing
Premier gigs
and stuff. Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, just first, you know, the first thing with Congressman was, you know, learning that he was cousin to close friends of mine. My boy Jay Rue and his sister Lisa, the Robinson family. He's cousins. He's their cousin, and so that, you know, because I grew up with them, so finding out that, you know, they were related was huge. And then you know, just to, you know, as you said, he was a humble brother. To see him in person, you know, when we, you know, used to have the show in the studio, and he would come to the studio, just to see him in person, you know, like they say, with the signature bow tie, you know what I mean? But you know, he was down with hip hop. You could tell he was part of the generation, because he knew those lyrics. He listened to the music. He knew the music, you know. But he was a good brother, and he had visions, man, and he had a heart. He was willing to help. And you know, he was real people, man. He was real people. And then, yeah, for him to offer me that slot, man, to come DJ for the Congressional Black Caucus in DC, that was my biggest gig. You know, that was my biggest gig for real.
How many years?
It went on for about 3 years. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I remember he always talked about whenever we would have conversations about his early campaigns, he was like, my favorite album is Jay-Z's The Streets Is Watching.
Yeah.
Because when it was running, it felt real to him, like all the songs on the album.
Yeah,
because he thought everyone's watching
specifically
how he
that
was
song,
moving.
specifically that song, that title, "Streets Is Watching," and then also "The Ghetto" in the Ghetto by Rakim was another favorite of his. You know, so yeah, so I remember, you know, those two songs definitely I would definitely throw on anytime he came to the studio to do the Payne Report. That was like his theme music.
Absolutely. A shout out to Principal Kafile. Always glad having him on. Always glad having him watch our show. So just a shout out and to him.
And I got to spend the first time with Rhino down there. But even when he came into the studio and how he would stay, because he would, I wondered, did he ever get back there and try to DJ? Because he would just get into the music and then he would
But we would definitely get into conversations about it though. Even with the mayor used to come when that was what was cool about the studio because we were all there together and we would have those intimate conversations. You know, I remember when the mayor would come by, we talk hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but yeah, the congressman, man, we would get into talk about hip hop and house music because you know he was a house head. And we started talking about all of the old club spots. You know,
I think that was probably why he didn't leave. You know what I mean? Why he hung out. You know what I mean? And
he felt at home.
Yeah, and the fact. Remember, man, it was always the conversation. It was the camaraderie. You know what I mean? And you know, I mean, there was no challenge. I mean, I think that you know there was always that good family vibe that all of us had.
Yeah.
And you know, and every now and then, you know, there'd be a conversation where, you know, him and John would get into debates, and you know, and it'd be challenging, and you know, it'd be good. You know what I mean? And yeah, so you know, and y'all, I mean, to think about it, man, it's been 12 years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, that's you know, and you could really count the number of times he missed his show. You can count them on your hand.
Right. Wait. So he had been. It's been 12 years.
12 years. Yep. Yep. From the moment he became the congressman, he was with the show. Right.
That's true.
You know.
Because I remember we did those debates back in. What was that? Was that 2012 when we did those debates, or 2011?
I think it was 11.
Mm-hmm. 2011 when we did those debates.
Because he became a congressman in 12.
Right. 12.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I got with the show in 2012.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. DJ Rhino, man, I thought you were here since the very beginning.
It feels like it, right?
It seemed like that, right?
Right.
Rhino was just as old as me. We just part of the wood in the business, you know what I mean? Wow. With all politics and local, you know. But yeah, man. But you know what's funny? You know, Kim reminded me of what the same way you did, John. We lost two of all politics and local alumni. You know what I mean? Right. And that's weird when you think about it, man. You know what I mean?
And we're not talking about alumni. We're talking about like active members of what we do, right? Yeah. People who are here every month, right? Like, and that's why, you know, it was so shocking. Like, and this was especially shocking because we just thought he, you know, it was like, oh, it was a stumble. We didn't know, right? Like, we thought it was something, you know, like, you know, and then to get the news, it was especially painful.
Rhino, you're muted. I know you said something.
I was saying I thought he was in recovery, you know, after the stroke. I thought he was in recovery at the time.
We all did.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah. Definitely didn't expect that at all.
But the commitment, because he was here. Was he on a train last month, or that was a month before he was on the train?
Yeah, he was on the train. Yeah. But he, you know,
as a train regular.
Yeah.
He's regular like.
Mm-hmm.
But remember, you know, he texted me that Saturday morning, you know,
right.
told me what had happened Friday, you know. Mm-hmm. And so he apologized for not making the show because he and I, I had spoke to him earlier Friday because remember, John, I was confirming what time he was coming on.
Right.
Yeah, I spoke earlier Friday, so I just thought everything was cool. Sent him the link, and and when when we were doing the show, I hit him up and asked him. I'm like, "Yo, you good?" And he didn't respond until the next morning. And remember, I told you when we went off the air, something must be wrong because that's not really him. Even if he's not going to make it, he'd tell us.
He lets us know. He always hits us up, right?
That was it. So he wasn't here in April?
He was here the month before.
Yep.
Yeah.
April. I'm saying so. This is April. So he
right,
April. Yeah.
Right. That was that first night, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we had hit him up during that day on that Friday. So
yeah. Because remember, I told you, John, Saturday morning. I think I told you and Zaid Saturday morning what he said.
Right.
I think he welcomed Pastor Ali to the floor of Congress, and then Pastor Ali got to welcome him home last. Think how big that was.
And that brings this whole conversation, this show, full circle. I mean, when he brought and he brings Rhino down to DJ and brought Pastor down to pray on the congressional floor, from the hood to the big house.
Yeah,
that was a big deal.
Right.
Yeah,
that was a big deal.
Yeah,
coming from what him and I come from, that was a big deal.
Yeah,
big.
Right.
Yeah, and then y'all think about it. He came, he would come home and pick his car up at the train station and come to Rutgers. You know what I mean?
Right.
Hang out for a couple of hours. He didn't even go home. He'd come hang with us.
Right.
And then he'd go home after being all the way down in DC. You know what I mean? All week. I'm sure his wife must have said, "Damn, you go there first." And then, and he told me some of the things he was doing. I probably shouldn't rat him out, man, but he would go pick up burgers and he'd say, that was, allowed him to stop after he'd hang with us and then go pick him up some burgers. And he said he'd sit in his car out in front of the house and eat them before he went in the house. You know what I mean? I said, "What?" He'd be like, "Yeah, man." Yeah. He said, "I blame it on y'all, man, but y'all gave me a reason to stop. I was hungry." You know what I mean?
Right. I remember he stopped because he would talk about the iced tea and French fries at McDonald's, but then he stopped because then I started having the iced tea and French fries. Like, nope. I was like, they are good. He's like, yeah, but don't do it. You got to stop. So I remember when he stopped.
But the other thing is, it also goes to show you, even though he lived in the South Ward, he wasn't afraid of the city at all, right? No. He still traveled by himself. You know what I mean?
It's just his, that's right.
Picked up his car.
Out in the world, son of Newark, New Jersey. No doubt about it.
And Amiri was like that.
Afraid of his people.
Yeah. And remember, Amiri was like that, y'all.
That's
you know what I mean?
That's how I met Amiri. He was by himself. He was walking the street by himself.
Yeah. Walking down the
street.
Always. And he could have been taken to Walter Reed, but he was right here at home.
Yeah.
He could have been. He was right here at home with his family and his people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of why a lot of us don't leave. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, we could go other places, but we stay, in Newark or close to Newark, and we just don't leave because we believe in the city.
Yeah, that's big. Yeah.
Donald,
what you said was huge too.
Mm-hmm.
Folks who don't know who Walter Reed is, he ain't somebody that the congressman knew in Congress. Walter Reed Medical Facility is one of the best medical facilities in the world that government officials have prime access to.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's that what you just said was a telling remark about his character and the comfort.
Yes.
Where he sought comfort to heal, even with what he had access to, he came home.
Yeah. So I mean, we definitely gonna get, we gotta get that Jay-Z quote though down, man. that he liked. Remember he said, something about you killed me, I killed you, I'm famous, you famous. That he used that quote when he was running for election. We gotta get that quote that Jay-Z said, man. But we're gonna do a big show. How many hours we doing next week, John?
Between 2 and 3, we're just trying to get everyone together. So I've been making calls, like just to get people together for this tribute, man. Like the next week would be the Payne Report, right?
Yeah.
And
how much time we gonna give everybody? How much time?
Oh, like depending on the person, but like 15 minutes, people talking, coming on, 10, 15 minutes each. And we're just trying to get people
Because last time we had so many people, people were just running into each other. You know what I mean?
Right. So what we're trying to do is try to like get some people to come in the 6 o'clock hour, some people to come in the 7 o'clock hour, so people aren't on at the same time. So
yeah, we're gonna have to coordinate that.
When we're asking people to come on, in different hours so that they, 15 minutes, they're going to be like a guest on, so that they can not bump heads and we don't have a bunch of people in the backed up in the studio. So that because we know there are a lot of people who are, who's affected, and people want to chime in. So I know Ed, you're getting people together. Zaid, Donna, Rhino. I mean, everyone's trying to get people together to come on for the show for next week. So we'll just have to coordinate the times to make sure everyone.
Yeah, I think probably what I'm going to do is just ask people are they available. You just have to tell me if you're going to take 6 o'clock, I can take 7 o'clock. You know what I mean?
Right.
Somebody else can take 8 o'clock, and then we just put people in those slots, and then just say we're going to give everybody 10 minutes. You know what I mean?
Right.
And just let them talk, and then move them out and move somebody else in, so people don't have a difficult time trying to get on to say how they feel or what their thoughts are about the brother.
Right.
Hey, can I just read a little what the president said about him? Because if you know anything about Joe Biden, he's real. President Biden, he speaks very from the heart. He's been a person who suffered a lot of loss in his time, so he doesn't use words.
What did he say?
Well, and also remember, they knew each other personally, right? Like
yes,
from the day he was
train,
and he would always Congressman Payne was one of the first people to come out for Joe Biden because they're actually friends, right? They were actually close.
Remember what he knew some things, right?
Right.
Well, we didn't.
He said that.
But they did use to ride the train together. But he said Don Payne was an accomplished public servant whose kind strength and generosity of spirit won him love across his district. I've trusted his partnership throughout my presidency and has always been grateful for his insight and support. A proud son of Jersey, the biggest city, Newark, Don was active in the community since before he could ever vote. He worked his way up from a job as a highway toll collector, becoming a city councilman and a freeholder after losing his trailblazing father, Jersey's first black congressman, senior to cancer. Don ran reluctantly in a special election to serve out his father's final term. He came to embrace that proud heritage, winning their re-election 5 times. Don and I worked together throughout his time in Congress as he fought to expand access to health care, clean drinking water, and cancer screenings, to prevent gun violence, protecting voting rights, and promote equal pay for women. He co-sponsored the 2013 law reauthorizing the Violence Against Women's Act that I first wrote years ago, transforming the way that domestic abuse is treated in America. And he was more recently key to passing our landmark bipartisan infrastructure law.
You muted yourself accidentally, Donna.
Yeah, muted.
You get to the bipartisan bill and you muted yourself accidentally. Go back.
Donna?
Sorry, I'm good. Bipartisan infrastructure law, making sure to secure record funding for rail upgrades across the Northeast, including the train tunnel under the Hudson River between Jersey and New York. They will be a piece of his legacy forever. Don represented the best of Newark, a community of faith, grit, and hard work, and he believed deeply in his promise. He lived his whole life on the same street, committed to the city that so many in his family served. Throughout his courageous battle with diabetes, he never tired of bringing people together to get things done for others. Jill and I send our thoughts to Don's family, especially his beloved wife, Beatrice, and their triplets, Donald III, Jack, and Yvonne, and with the people of Newark who have been blessed to have the wisdom and heart of Payne representing in Congress for so long.
That's a hell of a statement.
Yeah.
I got to bear witness. That's a hell of a statement. I'm mad as hell about Joe over Gaza, but you got that shit right.
Right. Right.
And the word needs to be said about that too, because right in the middle of that is that therein is the link. This work that we talk about, that you hear me talk about, this community-based violence intervention work all around the country has been at the table with Joe Biden's White House, and he was the bridge.
Right. And that's one of the things I always liked about. And that's one of the things I always liked about like what we all have collectively done together. And that's all politics are local links, activists, people who are doing the on the ground work with local politicians. What Payne did was link that with federal politicians and the federal government, right? And he did that with water. He did that with the Office of Violence Prevention. So the things that we were talking about on a grassroots level, the things that people were working on a grassroots level, just got connected because I remember him talking about getting the same things that Raz did, that Mayor Baraka did, in terms of getting the government to pay for the removal of the privately owned lead pipes, right? To get that to being state and then federal law, because I think $36 billion was put in the infrastructure bill very specifically for that. And I know he was talking about hopefully getting Newark grandfathered in for some of those millions so that Newark could receive the benefit of that since it was the architect of that part of the law being there. And so I think that so I love the president's statement on behalf of Donald Payne, because it was fitting of the very, very best of what politicians can do, how local and state and federal can all work together to have the best solutions, right? So it's not a top down that doesn't apply. It's literally looking at stuff that works and providing that as Zaid, as you said, a bridge. I mean, that's just fantastic, and it's just an important part of this story.
And when he believed in you, he took that legislation and walked it through. And again, bringing his doctor to the show to say, hey, I need you to understand. The doctor that said when people, about amputation, don't do it. DJ Rhino, when he said, I need you to come down to DC, and he just when he believed in something, and even as we did talk about the train and how the path of becoming into and how like the little details. I don't like the way the little train, they need to get some high speed, and how he's into the details and everything, because he wants the best for our community. And that's important.
Because remember, it was years that he was working on an infrastructure bill, right? Because he would talk on the show, he would talk about going to get a tour of the tunnels with the lights on. And he'd be like, if you saw them tunnels with the lights on, you would know how much money it needs, right? You'd be a little hesitant about going through those tunnels because you went through them with the lights on to see what was there, right? And so, so I know that the infrastructure bill was near and dear to his heart, because he had been talking about. Because remember, under the Trump administration, for years, right? Even before that, under Obama, they had been talking about infrastructure for years, and he'd been talking about getting money. He'd been talking about the tunnel that was supposed to be built, but Christie killed it. So we were there throughout that whole, he was talking about that the entire time. Right.
Christie shot himself in the foot with that too, because that was right up a Republican economic development lane. And he just He didn't have a vision to embrace
Ego.
Poor me on behalf of Chris Christie. But it was fascinating just seeing that from beginning all the way through. And I know he was very proud of that bill because as it was getting closer and closer to fruition, he seemed to be getting happier and happier because he literally had been working on it for years and years.
And the healthcare bills. Were you on the train when he got first elected? The Payne train? Was anybody on that train?
No.
Yeah, the Payne train, and I think he did with his dad and John in memory of that. But
I think one of the biggest things is he never complained, John.
No, he loved what he did.
Never complained, no matter what his health was, and I even remember he come to the studio with his knee up on the roller, rolling his thing
on
in. Put all wrapped up, and I never saw him complain, man.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And think about that, working all day, get on a train, get in the car, come right to the school. That was that's probably from 6 a.m. to like 10 at night. Yeah, that was a very long day.
And then hang out with us for another 3 hours, right? That was deep. You know what I mean?
And I think that he always fully understood, right? I think he fully always appreciated. I think he always fully internalized that he was blessed, right? And that and he had an obligation that was based on him feeling, right, that he was blessed, right? So no matter what the adversity was, I think he felt that that he was blessed and he needed to pass it on in any way he could. I mean, that's the feeling I always got from him. Yeah. We have come to an end of another All Politics are Local, right? And we are going to get ready for next week, right? Because we definitely want to make sure we get some people here that can really talk to and talk about, right, our friend. And I appreciate everybody here and want everyone to be safe and to take care of each other over the next week. Until next week.
Yep. So let's just thank everybody who was on, John.
Let's thank everyone who was on. But plus, on top of all that, I almost messed up, right? Because Marquise Lewis is like,
play.
You have got to talk about the play that's going to be at high school on May 4th.
That's not cool. May 4th.
Cool.
He put the link on here too for the tickets.
Right, and the link is on there. It's at Central High School at next Saturday, May 4th. The show starts at 6 p.m. And so everyone come see you then. And so that's that. We will be glad to have. We'll be glad if you go to see that. So that's Not Cool stage play. It's an anti-bullying stage play. We want to make sure that everyone comes out to see it. And at Central High School on May 4th at 6 p.m. And May 4th is what? May 4th is a Saturday?
Yeah.
All right, May 4th at 6 p.m. Come out to that, and we will see you soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, so let's thank all of our guests. Thank you for our guests coming today. Thanks to the Disciples for another month, and thank you to Barbara Horne and to all of our AT, and all of us.
Candidate April Gaunt-Butler for mayor in the city of Orange.
Right, and yes, thank you for coming on. We will hopefully have the other two candidates. So we're definitely going to have the current mayor. He's coming on in 2 weeks, and hopefully we'll have the other candidate on as well. That will come on for that Orange race. I'm looking forward to next week. Everyone, take care of yourself. Be safe, and see you then.
And you don't stop.